2021 at 6 p.m. I call this meeting of the Wellfleet Select Board to order. This meeting will be held via Zoom video conference in accordance with the temporary suspension and enhancement of the open meeting law requirements by Governor Baker. The first item on the agenda is public comments, open session, and announcements. Please note that public comments must be brief and the board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. And so I have one, and that is, I'm sad to report that our longtime DPW head, Mark Vincent, has passed away recently. He was the head of the DPW, or he worked for the town at least for over 20 years. And just want to offer my condolences on behalf of the town to his family, and appreciate the work that he put in to our community and to our DPW services.
Thank you, Mike.
Helen?
Yes, on June 14th at 10 a.m. there will be a roundtable meeting concerning the DCR and the DOT's intersection with West Main Street and Route 6 and bike trail project in Wellfleet. And because there are going to be so many people at the table, it would be closed to public participation, but it's an open meeting so people can show up and listen. And then on June 30th, right after town meeting, the DOT is going to hold an actual hearing where, of course, people can participate from the audience. And I'm not sure what time that'll be yet, but anyway, thank you.
Okay, Lara Henry. You up, Lara?
Laura, do you hear Michael? And you're on mute.
You're up, Lara.
My apologies, everything just kind of froze.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Lara Henry. I am the Executive Director of the Wellfleet Chamber of Commerce, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the Select Board for receiving our letter recommending that the 4th of July parade be rescheduled for Labor Day weekend. And also let you know that we are going to be filing the permit to use town-owned property at the following meeting. So just to give you a little heads up about that.
Okay, thank you, Lara. And I did speak with Lara today, and the chamber's been in contact with our public safety officials, fire, and police, and yeah. So yeah, thank you, Lara. Appreciate the heads up, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. No more announcements. Okay, COVID-19 updates and recommendations. I'm not sure if we have Hillary on here. Ryan's got his hand up. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So currently the extension to continue, that would allow the ability to continue open meeting or meetings remotely, is still with the legislature, and I don't know if it's going to get done by June 15th, which means that they would have to, all town committees and boards will have to resume meeting in person immediately at that point. And I also wanted to, I know that it's in the town administrator's report towards the end of our packet, but I would also like Charlie to address some of the reopening plans if possible. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we did get a memo from KP Law about the allowance of remote participation from non-board members, so long as there's a quorum of the board meeting in public. Helen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, for example, if we're going to allow further into the summer, large groups of people to meet for an event, more people are vaccinated, I certainly feel safer. I would like there always to be a conditional phrase attached, which would say, except in the event of a noticeable surge recurrence of the virus, because we don't think it's going to happen. More people will be vaccinated, but we need to at least acknowledge that we're still learning about this, and none of the vaccines have been tested out more than 3 months. Well, we need boosters. We don't know. I'm hoping for the best. Okay. But for example, if we say okay to the parade on Labor Day, and we should all think about this, that conditional phrase should be added to it, because we need to have the freedom, if there's some really weird turn of events, to be able to say, you know what, we can't do it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Okay, I think that's it for that. So on to the next subject.
Michael?
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I know I'll be talking about it later in the agenda, but since it did come under this section, I will be meeting with the Board of Health and the Health Director tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, I think at 5 p.m. And, clearly this is moving at a pretty rapid clip, and it's unfortunate, but it's real. I think originally I was hopeful there'll be some legislation to deal with the public meeting issue. I'm obviously concerned about that. But anyway, we're going to talk about this tomorrow night, and then I'll deal with the sort of some of the more critical issues between now and the next select board meeting. So.
Okay.
I would also, are there plans to reopen some of the town facilities?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So I think that was the whole idea, is that we would have a conversation tomorrow evening with our health professionals to talk about our different public facilities, what some of the important issues are, and then make a determination. So yeah, that's one of the conversations that I'd like to have tomorrow night with the health department first.
Mhm. Okay,
But obviously some type of appointments, phased reopening, I think are appropriate conversations for us to have tomorrow. So.
Mike, one more thing. I was going to bring this up later, but I think it's more appropriate right now. I very much hope that we are going to get to continue to vote virtually through the summer, entirely virtually, because.
Wait, hold on, Helen. What'd you say, vote?
No, sorry, meet. Yeah, meet. Thank you, Janet. Throughout the summer virtually, and have that be consistent. We've gotten in a groove with it. I prefer to meet in person, but I think hybrid meetings would be yet another new thing to get used to, and they're quite difficult to do. And I wonder if this board has enough sentiment about it, enough feeling about it right now to write a letter to our legislators and say whatever it was we feel should happen. I don't know how the rest of you feel about this. I just stated the way I feel. I'd prefer to meet virtually throughout the summer until we know better what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Not
So-
up to us.
So Michael, we're heading into a discussion rather than just announcements and public comments.
yeah,
And
Well,
on
not
the agenda, we are going to discuss this, so.
we are in COVID-19 updates and recommendations.
All
So
right,
recommendations, I think,
yeah, okay.
cover that. We can deliberate on these things. But I think that writing a letter, I'm pretty sure the legislature is working on this right now. There's several bills that have been introduced. So I don't think there's a lack of understanding that people want the ability to continue to do remote meetings. And I don't think a letter would be effective at this stage of the game. I mean, we're a week out from having to meet in public.
Or not.
Decision will happen. But there's bills already introduced, so I would recommend not taking action on that, really.
And if this is Charlie again, and I did reach out and spoke to Representative Peak and the Chief of Staff for Julian Sears on these issues, I believe 2 weeks ago. So I have communicated with our legislators on some of these important issues.
Okay, Justina, and then still have your hand up. Go ahead,
Well,
Justina.
quickly through you to Charles, did you get any sense of where they felt the legislature might go?
Well, I think there was a sense of optimism that they were going to deal with this issue, but I haven't followed up on that.
Sure.
Just because I've been kind of busy, but
Yeah,
now I'm getting a little concerned, frankly. So
sure, I understand. Well, I would echo Helen's sentiment. I've grown quite fond of the Zoom format. I don't mind meeting in person. COVID wise, I'd probably wear a mask, but I might be a minority, but I find the Zoom format quite effective. And I think we get a lot of audience participation. So I feel it's user-friendly for our voters. So that would be my personal 2 cents.
Well, it's just not up to us right now. We kind of have to put our hands in the air and see what comes through.
Sure,
Ryan,
but if we're offered a choice, it's straw poll is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's not going to be entirely up to us.
course
So
not.
the I mean, June 15th is 7 days from now. We have to have, or is it 7 days?
Mhm.
Yep, 7 days. All right. It's 7 days from now. At this point, we need to have a plan as to how committees might be able to meet in the case that legislation is delayed at all, because they would have to meet in person from June 15th on. And there's, yeah, so, and there's not a whole lot of time. So we need to let all of our boards and committees know which meeting rooms are possibly available, and what town staff might have to do. So thank you.
yeah. I mean, if it goes back and we have no hybrid policy, it's just like back before the pandemic. So, yeah, there's going to have to be space made available. It seems to me like, I don't know why it's taking so long, because the legislature could just extend the enhanced open meeting law for a set period of time, I believe. So but who knows? That's beyond us. So above our pay grade. But yeah, I think that's something that as far as organizing space and stuff like that, kind of would fall on administration.
Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, before the pandemic, we were all meeting in various spaces, which we're very familiar with.
Yeah.
What I'm most worried about are these smaller committees. We have so many committees. And to have them in small spaces together, masked, or having arguments about being masked. And certainly not all of them having good virtual way to have a hybrid meeting with people in person. I've never thought that was a good idea, but never mind, it's an opportunity. One of the things I would have put in a message from this town to legislators, even though, Ryan, you're right, it's not up to us, is, hey, why don't you let municipalities decide how they want to do it the next X number of months on an individual basis? Because what can happen in a city like Boston, or, you know, one of the smaller cities or larger towns in Massachusetts, is not what's going to happen here.
Sure.
And I think it's unfair. That's all. Thank you.
Well, I believe the legislature is working on something that would give us the option It's not required that we meet remotely. It's not required right now. We could start meeting in person right now. All right, so can we move on from this subject now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, licenses, Trudy Vermeeren, weekday and Sunday entertainment at the Fox and Crow Restaurant. Trudy on here?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Yes.
Hi, Trudy.
Hi.
So has everybody had a chance to review
Yeah. And
this?
this is pretty straightforward request for an entertainment license, so unless anyone disagrees or wants to say something, I'll make a motion.
Before I'll wait for your vote, but then I have something else I would just like to add that was a part of the agenda request. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You want to
So-
add that now, or do you want to?
Well, you can go ahead. It's just something I wanted to address with the board, but it's not regarding the licensing.
All right, so-
Okay, you can maybe say it, but we may not be able to respond if it's not on the agenda, depending on what it.
It was in my agenda request,
Okay,
but it didn't make it onto the printed part of the agenda. It's down where it shows the copy of my request.
okay, well, let's have this motion.
Thank you.
Okay. I move to approve the weekday and Sunday entertainment license to Trudy Vermeeren for the Fox and Crow Restaurant.
Ellen, second.
Roll call vote, sorry.
Janet, I.
Hi, Dennis.
Yeah.
Someone? Dennis?
What?
I'm sorry, someone's here.
Oh,
And I.
Michael, aye.
Helen, I, and Mike, as ever, the copy of the noise bylaw, not just a reference to it, shall be included. And,
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah,
even Trudy's read it 1,000 times. We're doing this.
and the third thing here she can talk about, but it looks like it is well outside of the scope of the agenda
it's
item.
on the agenda. Yeah, Trudy, you can talk, you can make the comment, but we will not be able to consider it right
Okay.
now.
or debate it. Yeah.
So a couple of questions about that. So if it is in that agenda request, then it doesn't make it onto the agenda?
Well, it should be on the agenda potentially. I don't know.
Okay, so I would just like to say, it's concerning the parking lot. That's also a town landing
Yeah.
at the head of, or I should say the foot of Bank Street and Commercial, where East Commercial and Commercial intersect. And
Okay.
it's just, it's in need of some care. It's never been kept up, and there is no handicap parking, no signs for that. The pedestrian crossing sign is something that was rehabbed for 2 years in a row. I've put it together myself 3 or 4 times, and it's a really dangerous intersection. I'd love to see it just sort of brought more attention to the fact that it's a big pedestrian crossing at a really dangerous corner. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay,
One thing I want to say about the agenda, I applied for 3 meetings ago and was 2 days ahead of the deadline to get in my request for the entertainment license. I couldn't find anything anywhere on the town website that said that I was supposed to pay the fee ahead of time, which I was asked to do, and I did. But if I don't have the license, I'm not sure why I was asked to pay the fee ahead of time, and there wasn't any explanation on the website. Then secondly, it was emailed personally by the secretary that I was going to be on the agenda for the 25th and should expect that. And I sat through the whole meeting, was not on the agenda, and of course couldn't be heard because I wasn't on the agenda. And then this time I had no notice of being on the agenda, and I'm on the agenda. I'm glad I was on, and I appreciate you approving my licenses. I just want to make myself heard that 3 meetings later, I have my licenses when I did all of the things I was supposed to do to actually get on a meeting over a month ago. That's all.
Fine.
Ellen,
Yes, you deserve an apology for that.
It's not you guys that need,
Hold
I
on.
mean, I just want you to know what I just had to deal with. And I know the town and I try to find all these answers, but if I wasn't from town and didn't know where to go, I guess I'm just saying there's some big holes there in information.
Yes, and we should perhaps in the future have an agenda item about your third item, but this is a licensing part of our job.
Okay.
And this is under licenses. So Ryan, I agree with Ryan. We really can't.
No, I understood. I was never told to separate the two, or I would have.
Well, also, just because somebody makes a request to the select board doesn't necessarily mean it gets on the agenda. For something like that, for a license, yeah, that would definitely get on there. I had not been informed of the request for consideration until this showed up in the packet. So I think as far as those types of requests also can be made to administration.
I did actually, but
Okay,
she
that's
was
fine.
fired a day or whatever. Her job ended the day after I met with her.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. And it's appropriate to have a discussion about that at some point if it's not being dealt with, but those are not necessarily policy tasks, but we,
So Michael, may I say something quickly?
Be careful because we're outside of the agenda.
Yes, I'm always careful. I think Trudy's point is that there are a lot of things that have fallen through the cracks. And it has been happening and we all have excuses. And the other thing, since Jane Norton's on this, that parking lot and that intersection is discussed, I'm gonna guess almost every year, if not almost every year. So I would like Jay to just take note of that. He doesn't have to answer me or anything, but these are important issues with, and actually on the next
Well,
list, there's something.
Point of order, because
Yeah, okay.
we're way outside.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
okay. Thank you. All right, moving on, we have weekday entertainment, Lobster and Chowder House.
So with this, what I just said is that we have nothing except for approved weekly entertainment license, nothing about the times, the days, the ownership. I didn't get anything besides that in my packet.
Same.
Mike?
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah, Trudy got us everything. This is not a normal situation, and I certainly, unfortunately, can't act on it without that information. And I believe that the rest of us shouldn't, but it's all up to you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no fee paid,
What was the information provided by the applicant to the secretary or town administration?
Is there an application?
I did not receive one, no.
Is Jeannie Mack on?
Jean would have gotten it.
I don't see her on, but
Don't see either,
so
but
we'll have to postpone this.
She said it's a business license, so you don't usually get them.
What's an entertainment license?
No, it's, we
Yeah.
usually get them. For weekday entertainment license, and there's no Sunday entertainment license. In other words, I had a question written. I'm sorry, Mike, you didn't recognize me. May I speak? Yeah? You're muted.
He's muted now, yeah.
You're muted, Chair.
So to move this along, we just need to get more information, and I move that we
Yeah.
postpone this application.
let's not discuss it if we're gonna
Or
just
continue
postpone it.
the hearing.
Continue it.
Continue the
Yes.
hearing to the next
I
meeting.
move that we continue the hearing for an application from the Lobster and Chowder House for weekday entertainment license.
Second,
Roll call vote?
Janet, I.
Justina, I.
Brian,
Michael, aye.
Helen, I, and a point to, through you to Rebecca or whoever, or to Jean McLaughlin, Jean, to query them. Do they not want also a Sunday entertainment license? Because they're two separate things. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, and Ryan, I couldn't hear your vote. Did you say aye?
yes.
Okay,
Continue the
motion
hearing.
carries 5-0. Okay, on to the next item. We have use of town property, Mayo Beach Town Pier, Indian Neck parking areas for various dates and times for Wellfleet Spat.
So
Does anybody have any issues? I mean, everyone,
There's actually two different.
Yeah, that-
requests.
Yeah, I'm looking for the second one. They are two different things, right?
Yes,
All right.
and they should have been separate agenda items probably, but it's still covered under the agenda items.
covered
because-
on-
May I address the first one, please?
yes. Okay, let's go to the first one.
Yeah, so the first one asks for various dates on which staff can do these educational sessions. And in response to the harbor master's comment, all the dates are good except for Saturday, September 11th at 9 a.m. and Sunday, September 12th at 10 a.m. So if we move this, it should not include those 2 days.
Well, Michelle Inslee's on here. Does she have anything to say?
Will somebody mute themselves so I don't have to listen to family conversations, please?
So those are September dates. I don't know if the harbor master's request says that. It says July and August.
Yeah, it says July and August.
September,
Will is on, you can ask him.
Will? You on here, Will?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I was leaning more towards, I think it was the second of the items was the Saturday and Sunday items.
Okay,
Yeah.
July 24th and August 22nd. at 5.
Yeah, basically it's, you know, Saturdays and Sundays in the summer are really hard down at the pier. At any time of the day, it's extremely busy and extremely complicated down there. We really don't want to have to add to the mix if we don't have to. But any other time, even during the summer, it's very calm and collected down there. So those would be great to have anyone come.
Okay, is Michelle or
I'm here.
Nancy here? Okay, Michelle, so the second, we're just gonna stick on the first one for now.
Sure.
But what do you expect the participation to be? Like, how many people? 20
Well,
20 to 25 or?
Yeah, so we've requested 20 to 25 maximum. They usually come in family groups of 2 to 4 people often. So I've really found that sometimes it's just 5 cars, 7 cars, no more than 10 or 12 cars. You know, and a lot of people, a lot of Wellfletians come and they even have stickers and everything. And I just wanted to just add, in case you don't call on me again, that those Saturday events, the July 24th and the August 22nd, those are for small groups of only 10 people, because those will be incorporating a Learn to Shuck program. I'm hoping that those are family groups that come in no more than 2 cars. So those are very, very small pilot programs to incorporate a Learning to Shuck tasting component to the tour.
Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, so the application, or the first app, I guess for maybe both of them, but it asks as well that they receive basically passes to the Indian Neck lot, because that lot requires a sticker in the summer. And so through you to, is Suzanne on here?
Should be.
Suzanne?
I am.
Suzanne, how would that work with the Indian Neck lot?
Traditionally, when this happens at the Indian Neck lot, people with stickers obviously can just come and park, and we ask other people to try to carpool with people who have stickers. If they don't have a sticker, I'd be happy to issue a temporary sticker for the times of the event only, a permit to park, so they won't get a ticket while they're there.
Can I add, please, excuse me, that's what we had done in the past. And we really didn't have to do that all that often, because we were primarily asked people to park at Mayo Beach and the pier. So that was the arrangement that Suzanne and I had worked out in previous years.
Okay, and then the last question for me is on the fee. do we treat each of these separately, or do we do one fee to cover them all? Because this is a significant number of people potentially, so it's
Um,
14 dates with 20 to 30 people, so that's 240 to what, 240 to something. I don't know. I can't think of the number off the top of my head.
Excuse me, Chairman, one more.
yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, so it's actually 13 dates in the general public ones, and then the two dates in the tasting component. But Becky Rosenberg from the Recreation has requested that we offer a couple of tours for the students at Recreation. So at least we'll give at least one of those to Recreation and lead the tour for them. So it is less, and the 20th, because those might be the 20th and the 19th, because those would be an Indian Neck. Those will have no more than 20. Those will be a little bit smaller groups. And as I said, one will be a donation to the town for the Recreation.
What essentially, some of these tours are actually taking place on private property or whatever. So it's use of parking essentially is what the request is. Is that right? I mean, or
Well,
crossing town beach.
I guess that's
What do
right.
we typically, what do we charge? What did we charge last year for this?
Well, we didn't do it last year. I'd have to
Oh,
look.
I mean, the year before. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually don't remember. Let me see if I can kind of look while I'm online here.
Because we do certain things also for like people who do, lessons and things like that are throughout the summer. It's a single fee, not per event specifically. So
It
just
was a flat fee, and I don't recall.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find it now to see if I can look that up.
Justina.
Yeah, and
Mary,
also the proceeds go to fund SPAT's various charitable activities. It's not a for-profit course, so,
Right.
and more generally I think there's tremendous interest on the general public about Wellfleet's oyster industry. I've been out on the flats when people stop and ask a lot of questions. So I think it's a nice service SPAT's providing to educate the general public about this industry of our town. So it promotes the town as well, one might say. I think it's really great that this is going on. I've always been surprised at the amount of questions people ask and the curiosity they have.
Ryan.
So if I can make a suggestion on the fees, is to do $20 per date for the first ones. The second ones are definitely smaller, but that would be a fee of $260.
I would second, I like that idea. I like the way he did that separately. So, yeah, there is wear and tear and use on everything that kind of needs to be covered. So I agree with Ryan.
Seems logical.
Okay.
Okay.
So should I make a motion?
Sure.
Any other questions? Do I need to mention every date?
I think you can say for the dates listed on the application in our packet. It's just.
Well, should we talk about the second ones then now or after?
Well, is there two separate applications?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's just do this one.
Okay, so I move to approve the use of Mayo Beach, Town Pier, and Indian Neck parking areas for various dates and times to Wellfleet SPAT for a fee of, what was it, $260?
$260. Second.
Roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Tina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, I.
Ellen, I.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Okay, the second use for the 2 days.
Yep, I gotta get the dates there.
So it's Saturday, July 24th and August 22nd, both at 5 p.m. They're for a smaller group, so it's a 10 to 12 people, and Spet's charging a $75 fee per person. I don't know. So I would recommend granting the use, with the exception of probably the town pier, to address the harbor master's concerns.
Michelle, what are you going to be doing on the town pier?
Well, that was just a place for people to park. I just put Mayo Beach or pier where people, because I can't control where people will park. You know, it depends on what's available.
Okay, can you recommend that people park if it's?
Okay, Mayo Beach. Yeah, the idea behind this is when we do these tours, most of them happen to be this year in the morning, except for these two that are at sunset. And it's really nice to include the tasting. And we just eliminated that because of all food safety and having somebody open them and all of that. But one of the successful events at the Oyster Fest is our Learning to Shuck workshop, and it also promotes people to consume more oysters at home. So we want to empower people to be able to open oysters. So the idea was to just pilot it with a small group, gather people. They probably will park at Mayo Beach. It's going to be where we're going to walk from. I'll set up a couple of tables. We'll have some oysters there. We'll already have purchased and run through wholesale. They'll be in a cooler. We'll teach them how to open. They'll open some, eat some, and then walk down to the tour, the farm there on Mayo Beach. So we could certainly ask that they park at Mayo, because I'm really envisioning that this is a family group or 2 family groups at most, like a very, very small amount of people.
Okay.
The fee, because it includes the oysters, we'll have to run them from wholesale. We're giving them a shucking kit, and then we're leading the tour. So it's a package.
Right. Brian?
For a fee, I would recommend $10 for each date. I mean, that seems.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
Yep.
I would actually say more.
I would say, I agree with Ryan on this. I mean, it's just 10 to 12 people. This is a nonprofit, I think
Right.
it's reasonable given, if it's $75 per person, it's including a bunch of stuff. It's not all proceeds. And what they're really requesting is fairly light use of parking areas that are public parking anyway.
Yeah, and I wouldn't grant it to Powers Landing, because the lot there is so small. It can get small in the summer.
Well, it's 5 p.m. So.
And it's low tide. It's 5 p.m. at low tide. That's why I really thought at least that parking area wouldn't probably be used as much.
Generally.
People go in and out of there to get out to Egg Island. So I don't know. People leave trucks there and other people sort of get rides out there. So.
All right. Well, let's not, I mean, at this time of day, these are all open public parking spots. So let's not get too caught up in the weeds, and maybe we can just request that they park at Mayo Beach. And I mean, I don't see a problem with Powers Landing at that time of day either. It's a public parking lot. I mean.
And the reason I thought that it was that we could try one at each location, and actually Powers Landing's kind of out of the fray, if you will. It's away from the bookstore. It's away from where people might be going out to dinner and all of that. It's a little bit more out of the way. That's why I thought that was a good spot.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. I don't know if the board wants to bother on that. If it was like during the time when you need a sticker, do you need a sticker to park there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
After 5 p.m., there's no.
No, you don't need a sticker after 5 p.m.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. After.
All right.
And
Well,
we're just authorizing basically use of a parking area.
yeah. Yeah. Which we have minimal spaces, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I move to approve the use of Mayo Beach, Town Pier, Indian Neck,
No.
and
No.
Powers Landing, or you just want those few? You just want those?
They requested Mayo Beach, Town Pier, or Powers Landing.
Okay.
Not
Oh, that's
Indian
right,
Neck.
not Indian Neck.
And,
Okay,
and Will would prefer if there wasn't any at the pier.
yeah.
Yep.
So it'd be Mayo Beach and maybe Powers Landing.
Okay, so I move to approve the use of Mayo Beach and Powers Landing by SPAT. How's that? For a fee of $20?
Okay,
For the dates of Saturday, July
yeah.
24th and August 22nd.
Yes, at 5 PM each time.
roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
Tina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye. Okay, Helen, you there?
She just texted me and said she had to rejoin.
Okay,
Okay,
motion carries 4-0 right now. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, Wellfleet Memorial Garden, Mary Gallagher and Alex Kent. I know Mary. And Alex.
Hi. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
So have you guys, everyone's reviewed this. Does anybody have any concerns? Ryan?
I just want to point out that it is requested that they don't have cocktails in the, wait. Yeah, that on our form, there's no alcoholic beverages to be served or consumed in the garden. And yet on your permission form, you want pictures and cocktail hour. So I don't know where you stand with not having cocktails there.
That's fine. I mean, it's fine. The majority of the wedding is all behind Preservation Hall. It's just, for people going to take pictures and kind of meandering around.
Yeah.
I think there's a no alcohol policy in the garden
there is,
itself.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
That's the issue, right?
Yes.
But you're using Pres Hall as the venue?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so yeah. Ryan, do you have your hand up still?
Yeah, so it was about the alcohol. And I was just wondering if it's just specific to the garden, that alcohol is not allowed, or is it a policy at some point on the town?
In this case, it's particularly for the garden.
Okay, because of how it was funded initially.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I moved and I propose that we use the regular fee of $110. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Consistent, we should remain consistent.
Yes.
Okay,
So I move to approve the use of the Wellfleet Memorial Garden located besides Pres Hall to Mary Gallagher and Alex Kent on September 18th, 2021 at 5:30 PM with the conditions that no alcoholic beverages are to be served or consumed in the garden and that any damage to the lawn will be repaired to the satisfaction of the DPW and the health agent for a fee of $110 to be charged.
And C, could you add, please, all trash shall be removed as was requested by a department. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the applicants get these, then they know that, yeah.
okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Justina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
Mike, may I just ask, I got cut off, and did you get my texted message through Rebecca that I said aye on the last vote?
Well, okay, she can record that then, 5-0.
Yeah, I
Okay.
sent it to her, yeah.
Okay, all right, Mary, thank you, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bakersfield 10. Oh, no, we're at Duck Harbor, sorry.
So,
This is-
I just want a clarification if the person's on here.
Yes.
On the application that we got, it's for the use of Duck Harbor, but on the application that you put in, you put in Duck Pond Beach.
Yes, I made a mistake. I meant Duck Harbor, which is on the bayside,
On
and
the
you can,
bayside.
it's the ocean, you can,
Okay.
yeah, sorry. That was my mistake.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, that
Um,
changes things, so.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, whoa, wait a minute. Excuse me. What was just said? It's Duck Pond or
No,
Duck?
Duck Harbor, it was a typo, Helen.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I see that. Got it.
Jeanette had asked me in an email. She clarified for me, so I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, so anything from the board on this? Can we make a motion? Is there a fee?
Yep, 110. I move to approve the use of Duck Harbor on July 23rd, 2021, from 7 PM to 8:45 to Nancy Sullivan. Yeah, to Nancy Sullivan
For a fee of,
for a fee of $110.
Second.
Okay,
Don't they put for a wedding in there?
No, no, it's not a wedding. It's the night before the wedding. I wanted to have my
Oh, okay.
family, I wanted to have my family to have a place to meet and greet. So I need to give them information
Okay,
about the area, and I made up some brochures. So I'd like to have a place for them to meet, see the sunset, and I can share the information.
okay, great. I got it. Thank you.
all right. Motion
Janet,
made and seconded. Roll call vote. Janet, aye. I heard that. Go
Dina,
ahead.
aye.
Yep.
right,
Michael, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Mike, I have a question.
What is it, Helen?
Yeah, on quite a few of these, usually we see that the $50 handling fee has been paid, and could we please have that in the future?
it says it was paid.
It says it was, yeah.
I'm not looking at it.
Jeannie,
It says it was paid.
Oh, I see, on the second page. Got it. Sorry, apologize.
Let's move on to the next thing.
Can I ask a question about it or no?
Sure.
I'm sorry, the parking said permits until 5. So is it okay to park there after 5?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Nancy, it sounds like a fun meet and greet.
Thanks. I'm so excited. Thank you for everything. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Good luck.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay. Now, Bakersfield tent, various dates and times, Neil Nichols.
So,
Brian,
Oh, is he here?
is Neil here? Doesn't look like it. Is Becky here?
Yes. I saw her somewhere.
so we really just have to decide on a fee, because he's
Well,
done this a
also,
number
just
of
need to make sure
times.
this doesn't conflict with other uses at Bakersfield 10.
Well, didn't Becky sign off on this?
Yeah.
she- Or Suzanne did. And
Oh,
yeah,
Becky
no,
wrote
and so did Becky.
charge earnings.
Yeah,
Okay.
And there's actually a policy on the tent, which needs to be revised because now it's pavilion.
Right.
But it requires a deposit and a security deposit. Yeah,
do you know what the fee is, Ryan,
it
offhand?
doesn't say.
Yeah,
That's up to us.
okay.
We never do usually charge a percentage of the
I
earnings.
know. We usually do
That's
kind of a
not
flat rate.
something that we typically do. I don't want to get wrapped up in this for a long conversation, because I think at some point we have to really sort of figure out a consistent way to do this, so that they,
Well, it's supposed to be, the fee is, our fee that we agreed on in the past was just always say $110. And to me, that may include a deposit for the pavilion and a per diem rate for the use of it. And that always simplified things when we just did 110, but now things are kind of changing.
well, it's multiple dates, and
Yeah.
times, and students.
Yeah,
I just, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, we would also have to grant an exception because the policy that we currently have in place requires an employee of recreation department to be provided in to supervise and assist during each 10 activity.
Well, he,
And we can make an exception. It's the number 8 of it. Any exceptions of the above regulations may be made only by the Board of Selectmen.
so Becky is on this call. And again, this gentleman's done this, I know, at least 3 years in a row, if not more. And if they're doing the day, if they're there during the day, isn't Becky also there during the time that they're there?
Mike?
Yes, Helen. And Justine,
I like hearing from all of you, but this is getting a bit conversational, and I would appreciate if we waited for the chair to recognize us if we have our hands up. But I wanted to bring up 2 things. One is, if you read the whole application, at times, it is simple to relocate session under tree near skate park. So whatever motion we make should include not only the exception that Ryan brought up, which I was going to bring up too, to let them to waive that or not, but to include, to say the Bakerfield Pavilion and grounds in the event that occasionally, apparently, they just move the class over sort of a little bit.
you can make the motion, Helen. Let's decide on a fee.
Wait, I wasn't done, Mike. The third thing is, instead of having, percentages monitored, which comes up sometimes, or anything else, let's just decide one flat fee and not make it too much, because basically it's providing activities that the recreation department then doesn't have to provide.
Yes, okay. Justina has her hand up. Go ahead, Justina.
Yeah, I think he's been doing it for almost 10 years. So, and he's provided a very thorough application, and Becky's here if we have any questions. So I think that we should really move along and approve it.
My question is, what do we typically charge for somebody giving lessons like, swimming lessons or paddleboard lessons or surf lessons? What do we typically charge? Been a while since we've done one of those. Suzanne?
For permission to give, I think that it's analogous to the people who used to give surfing lessons on the ocean side.
Yeah, that's
The fee
kind of what I
was
was thinking.
$350 for the summer.
Okay. $350 for the summer. This is how many days?
It's
5.
5 days and about 7 weeks at 5 days, I think.
Okay. I think it would be appropriate to sort of treat it the same way. And do we do that with people giving yoga lessons, as yoga instruction on town property as well?
Well, I know also the people that give kayaking tours and Subboard lessons, also we charge the $350 for the summer.
Okay. What do you guys think?
I would like to do less than that, just because he does do children through recreation and also gives deals and stuff. So,
yeah, and it's a different space. It's not the beach. It's not as, I guess, premium parking and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
I'm fine with doing less, but maybe we should do 200 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to answer. So,
To Janet's point, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, to Janet's point about deals, my stepson received many art scholarships from Neil.
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
My stepson, to Janet's point about Neil giving deals, my stepson received numerous art scholarships through the year, where he was allowed to take a reduced rate and so forth.
That might be an issue, Justina.
In what way, Ryan? Recuse myself?
Monetary compensation, or it's basically a gift.
Well, he doesn't do it. That was in the past.
It was 10 years ago, Ryan.
Okay. Oh, it was 10 years ago. All right.
Yeah. This is,
I was just speaking to Janice's point. Sorry, Helen, it was conversational.
yeah.
Watch out.
Janet had raised a point that he gave deals, and I was anecdotally saying 10 years ago, my stepson got a couple of scholarships.
Okay. I don't
So
think-
since we have no we do have a policy on this, and I would just go with the $110 fee that we've been using. That's my suggestion. And we should have a discussion on this at another time.
Yeah, we need to go over these fee rates so that we're consistent. I don't like doing this on the spot.
No, I don't either.
Suzanne, do you have your hand up again?
I do. I just had one question. Does anybody know what, I know that Neil paid a percentage in 2019. Does anybody know what the total payment was for 2019?
I don't know.
Hello.
Helen?
Yeah, I'm ready with a motion, which I wrote down. And I think 200, we could just leave it at that. And this is not a wedding or something. This is a continual use of the property. And it's a good one, and it supplements, a program, our rec programs. And it's, I heard what Justina said, and I'd also heard other good things about it. But anyway, I'm ready to make a motion if you want me to.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay, I move to approve the use of the Bakerfield Pavilion and grounds to Neil Nichols Jr. for various dates and times as listed on the application, for a fee of $200, and to waive the requirement for the presence of a town recreation staff member, of town recreation staff. No A in there.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Tina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye.
Helen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay. For Bakersfield Pavilion, Frank Corbishley. Frank, are you on here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi. So do we have anything from the board on this? This is just one day. Is there a fee that you're charging?
Should be 110.
No, I mean.
No, it's a surprise for my wife's 60th birthday. So
Okay.
it's.
All right, I understand now. Okay,
Yeah.
so can we have a motion?
I move to approve the use of the Bakerfield Pavilion on June 27th, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a fee of $110.
Second.
And to waive the requirements for a recreation staff member to be present.
Second,
Okay,
a roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Tina, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye.
Helen, I. And Rebecca, do insert the name of the applicant in the motion, please. Thank you.
Okay.
So Michael, I have my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Janet.
I just did it. Becky R., who I'm assuming is Becky, is on this call or on this meeting, and she should really be weighing in on being there and not being there. I mean, she's kind of in charge of the recreation field. So does she
Yeah.
have anything to say, or?
I think the point of that was because the tent had all these, when there was a tent before,
Right.
it had all these flaps and there could be issues with the wind and stuff like that. I think it was more an issue with the structure itself and a sort of liability thing
Yeah.
than it was that someone needed to oversee whatever was happening in it.
I'm just saying that when a department head is on our meeting,
Yeah.
they should weigh in on department head questions. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying.
Yeah, we can call on her now if you want.
Well, I don't see her on here anymore.
Let's just.
I think she keeps getting cut off and then trying to rejoin. She has a bad connection.
All right, let's go to the next
Moving on.
subject, please. This is to rescind the original vote to lower town meeting quorum. I think we cannot do that anymore now that the emergency's been lifted. Is that right, Rebecca?
Yeah, and Dan Silverman is on to explain a little bit more.
You there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the town clerk through Charlie Sumner put a request in for an opinion from town council and received back the information that with the expiration of the state of emergency on June 15th, that this was not an option that was available to the town anymore. So I thought just it should be a formality for the town, for the select board rather, to
Yeah.
rescind that vote, just so that there's no confusion about that.
Okay, I move to rescind the vote to lower the town meeting quorum to 100 people due to the updated governor's orders.
Second, Helen.
Roll call vote?
Janet, I.
Tina, aye.
Oh, sorry, Justina.
What's that?
I heard both
Sorry.
those guys.
Oh, Ryan, I forgive you.
Michael, I. Helen?
Helen, I keep getting dropped.
Okay, 5-0. Okay, wastewater committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, could I just take 2 more minutes of the select board's time, just to bring a couple of other things about town meeting. I know it's not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
Well, if it's about meeting quorum, it is.
It is about the quorum.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Just to let you know that the quorum, with the new people that have registered to vote as of the cutoff earlier this week, the town clerk informed me that we have 3,018 voters, so that the 6% of that, the quorum will be 182. 6% actually comes out to 181.08, but we can't admit an 800th of a voter. So the quorum will be 182. That's a fairly substantial quorum, so that anything that the select board can do to help publicize the meeting more than it already has. I know that, you know, a lot of people watch these meetings, which is why I wanted the opportunity to let you know that there would be a significant quorum.
Okay.
There are some other town meeting matters. I was hoping that we could talk about town meeting, but if you don't want to, I will ask to be put on your next agenda. The problem is that that's pretty late before town meeting. So.
Well, I think as long as we are not.
I'm not asking you to deliberate or take action on anything. I just want to
deliberate, but I believe I could allow you to just make a public comment again.
That's all I'm asking you to do.
Yeah, so you can make an announcement or a public comment. I'll allow that.
I want to take the time at the beginning of the meeting.
Sure.
Just a couple of things very quickly that the guidance based again on the expiration of the state of emergency and consultations with our public safety officials, that masks will not be mandatory. The information on the website hasn't been completely updated, so mask wearing will be optional throughout the meeting. Seating will be spaced to keep people separated. On any handouts, there is a deadline on this. If people have information that they want to present, that information needs to get to Rebecca Eldridge ideally by June 14th, but no later absolutely than June 21st. Anybody who wants to submit a information that'll be included in that packet is entitled to one page double space that has to get to Rebecca Eldridge. The other thing is I was going to ask the chair and the vice chair to make all the motions as you did last September. I thought that worked well. You can consider that between now and town meeting, but I think that makes a lot of sense to move the meeting along. And the final thing is that the forum will be having a pre-town meeting on Monday, June 14th at 7 p.m. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, June 14th at 7. That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
that still will be scheduled as a Zoom presentation, not as a live the 3D event.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your tolerance.
Okay, Ryan, do you have your hand up on the subject?
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to thank town moderator Dan Silverman and everybody else who has worked on town meetings for this year and last year, and really appreciate those efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
So change of name from the wastewater committee to clean water advisory committee. Is Kurt on here? Do we have Kurt Felix in the room? Doesn't look like it. Is anyone from wastewater on here? Janet?
So I would just say this is a pretty simple and obvious request, changes the kind of the way you look at it. So I'm more than happy to move this and approve it.
Yeah, this did come from the wastewater committee, right?
Yeah, it's a kind of an obvious.
Yeah, I talked to Scott Horsley about it at one point. So, yeah, okay. So can I have a motion?
I move to approve the change of name from the wastewater committee to the Clean Water Advisory Committee.
Second.
A roll call vote?
Janet, aye.
Justina, I.
Ryan,
Say aye, Ryan, or no?
aye. I said aye.
Okay. Michael, aye.
Ellen, I.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
And then I have a question before we move on.
Yes.
Were they told that they were on tonight's agenda by town staff?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike, I have to alert you to something, I'm afraid, like this. I am not able to get anything except the rectangles with us on them. I can't do participants. I can't do reactions. I have been trying to join for the last 5 minutes. So if I want to speak, I'll raise my hand and wave it. And I apologize, but I don't know what the problem is.
I'll look at it. I'll look for you.
Thank you.
If I don't catch you after a little while, then you can just say, Mike.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we have request town to serve as 10% match partner for grant proposal for the Herring River Restoration Project. Carol's on the meeting, I believe. I saw her up here. Are
Yes,
you
I
here,
am.
Carol? Okay.
Yes.
So you can go ahead and introduce this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Carol Ridley here, coordinator for the Herring River Restoration Project. And I'm here this evening to talk with you about an exciting opportunity we have to secure some funding for the implementation of the Herring River Restoration Project. And this is a grant opportunity through a grant program of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's called the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, or Naca, grant program. And for this year only, due to some special funding, the program has applicants can request up to $2 million, which is a good, chunk of money to put toward the restoration project. Normally, in a normal year, grants can only be requested for $1 million. So this is a one-year opportunity. And the purpose of the grant, its purpose is to enhance bird populations and wetland habitat. So certainly very consistent with the objectives of our project. And we feel, and after some consultations with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Ducks Unlimited, who I'm going to talk about in a moment, that we are very competitive for this grant. So we are working, we're fortunate to be working with Ducks Unlimited, which is an organization many folks have heard of before, a national organization that is uniquely suited to preparing these grants. They have extensive experience with this program and a track record of success in securing grant funding through the Naca program. Sarah Fleming, who is the Director of Conservation Programs for the Northeast region, is here with us this evening. So they will be actually submitting the application, and then the funds they receive will be used to pay for implementation actions on either Town of Wellfleet property or Cape Cod National Seashore property. And we are currently working with Sarah in developing this grant proposal and coming up with the budget and specific types of activities that funding could be used for to assist with implementation. So the reason we wanted to come before you this evening is that in order to be competitive There are, points for various facets of the application. And one of them is having a minimum of 3 10% match partners. So that means partners that are contributing, in this instance, $200,000 or more of value toward the project. And that it can be cash, but it can be other forms of match value. And so we have identified 2 other match partners. One is a donor who's donated some land value to the Wellfleet Conservation Trust, who's very generously agreed to be a participant as a match partner. We're also working with the State Division of Ecological Restoration, which is a major grant funder to the project, to pledge some of that grant funding for this purpose. And because the town is an applicant on the project, it would be very compelling to have the town listed as a 10% match partner as well. Now, we recognize, resource issues and resource constraints, and what we are proposing for this 10% value contribution is to pledge other grant funds for which the town has applied to the state municipal vulnerability preparedness project. So within the last couple of months, the town submitted a grant proposal to the state MVP program to generate some funds that would be used for the project. We don't have word back as to whether those funds will be received, but they are well in excess of the $200,000 value that we would need for this 10% value contribution. Now, if the grant funds come in, or a portion of the grant funds come in, we're golden. Those could be pledged because they're non-federal dollars, and they could be pledged as this 10% match contribution. In the event that the grant is not received, there are multiple other sources of match that are non-cash, meaning not money the town needs to pay, that could be counted to make up this 20% value contribution. It could be the valuation of the staff time that's already going to be contributed to the project. There will be use of DPW facilities that could be monetized and valued for the purpose of this grant match. There could be other non-federal grants that are applied for. And the beauty is that the period during which this funding can be calculated is about 6 years. So it's from January 1 of 2019 through September of 2025. So it's all to say that if the MVP grant is not received, we feel pretty confident that there's a lot of other match potential that would be non-cash that town could replace as its 10% contribution. At the end of the day, if that didn't happen, or you felt uncomfortable with some of those match contributions because we haven't identified them yet, the town could withdraw as a match partner. That would create a couple of headaches, I think, that we need to deal with the grant administrators, and Sarah can address that perhaps more directly. But it's not as if the town is completely locked into this. So just to sum up, I think what we were asking for you of you this evening is to agree to sign the letter of support, which was included in your packet, that would make this commitment of 20% value, and commit to try to make that up if the MVP grant is not successful. But again, you're not bound to this if things don't work.
Is it 20% or 10%? It's 10%, right?
I'm sorry. Yes, 10%. Pardon me. Yes,
Okay.
10%. It's $200,000, 10% of the $2 million grant request.
Okay, and the other question I had is the 10% match can happen over how many years, did you say?
From January of 2019 through September of 2025.
Okay, so over 6 years, and it can be non-cash contribution.
Correct.
Or grants that come in that are not federal grants.
That is correct.
Okay, so within that time frame, $200,000 if we were to receive 2 million in, okay. All right, I understand. Ryan?
Yeah, I have a question. So I had Carol emailed me a list of some of the things that we could use as to meet the town's 10% if in the case that the grant fund or the grant funding for the MVP is not awarded or fully awarded. And then one of them is the transfer of properties to the care of the Conservation Commission. And if the properties are allowed to be from January 2019 to September 2025, we did transfer properties to the care of the Conservation Commission, I believe the last 2 years. So the town might already be able to meet its in-kind contribution on those alone without pledging, any grant funds towards it.
Would that have to be future commitments? Or I don't know if we could go back in time and.
You may go back to January of 2019. So any transfers, I think the question, so that they could potentially be considered match. Absolutely. I think the question then becomes what could be valued? What of that transfer would be valued? And Sarah, I'm gonna ask you if maybe you want to chime in on that.
Yes.
If that's okay, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time to come to speak with you. And Carol did an excellent job summarizing our requests. But to Carol's question, what we would be looking at is if we're discussing the transfer of property, we would have to do an assessment of the property value, which would require a yellow book appraisal to determine the cost of the property, which would be covered. We could cover that at no cost to the town. If that was an option that we would like to include the value of the property as a match pledge. Again, it would cost the town nothing. We would cover those costs as part of the grant.
Okay.
So,
Justina?
Justina?
Hold on. Do you have another question, right? Justina's had her hand up for a while.
Yeah, it was just going to be a quick statement, and that's if we've already have potential contributions that have potentially already been made or would qualify as being made, we should probably pursue those. So thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Justina.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for bringing that up. I think that's a great point. And I was just going to add, I think reading between the lines, I think what Herring River is asking from the town is for us to participate so Herring River can leverage the town's participation to go out and get this 2 million. And it looks like it's going to be not a heavy lift for the town with the in-kind, with the DPW and so forth. And especially with the point that Ryan has made that we might already, in fact, have had the substantial property, as he pointed out. So I just see this as Wellfleet providing our support so that Herring River can leverage it, and the actual while it sounds like $200,000 match contribution, it doesn't actually whittle down to that. It's more like our participation is leveraging, allows leverage for Herring River is how I see it.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
Hey, Mike.
Helen?
Yeah, so you should know that those of us on the executive council have been asked to list all the hours we spend on the Herring River and give them to Christine Oriaga, who works for the technical committee, I believe, through you to Carol. So should all the select board be also listing their hours spent on the Herring River project? Does it count even if we're not salaried? Because it counts for me, when I'm on the other, when I'm on the other group, the council.
Point of order. I don't think we need to be going through any potential, dollar here, dollar there.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
On the select board is not going to be a big contribution.
No, that may not be true. I'm just asking Carol if we should be counting that too, because we get to go back to 2019, Mike, respectfully. So may I ask Carol that, please?
Yes, Carol.
So the answer is yes, any and all hours, volunteer, town staff can be counted within that time period.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Oh, it's a big one.
I move to approve that the town of Wellfleet serve as 10% match partner for a $2 million grant proposal to be submitted by Ducks Unlimited to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service North American Wetland Conservation Act program for the Herring River Restoration Project, and that the town's 10% match contribution be met by pledging $200,000 of a pledging of $200,000 should include the municipal vulnerability,
Yes.
because we just went over that there might be in kind.
Yeah, but you want to include that too. It's not, yeah.
Okay, $200,000 of a pending grant from the Commonwealth Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant Program, or by pledging alternate match value totaling $200,000 that could be met by other non-federal grants and in-kind contributions towards the project from January 2019 through September 2025, and to authorize the signing of a partner letter of support, and then should be by one of us. Who's signing?
I signed that by our,
Okay, by the select board chair.
yeah,
Second,
a roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Aye.
Ryan, aye.
Well, aye.
Ellen, aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
And Michael,
Thank you very much.
I think according to this motion, you should sing the partner letter of support.
Yeah, I got that.
Oh, well, that's a pleasant typo, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I mean, I've been known to sing every once in a while. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
you,
thanks,
Carol.
Carol. Okay, so now we have the discussion of remote participation.
No,
after the resumption.
Bike and Walkways Committee.
No, that was removed off the agenda. That's going to be dealt with under correspondence.
Okay.
That
Because
was not on our published agenda for, that was only published for about 10 minutes, but it did get sent to you.
Sorry, I didn't take it off the slideshow.
So, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, so even though the agenda item would cover some of the things that we need to just be clear about, because the next time we're going to meet, it's going to be at that meeting. Okay?
Helen, we just don't have time to go over everything, and we're going
Yeah,
to.
well, what's going to be on the agenda? I forwarded to all of you. I asked them to only go through Rebecca and Charlie and the whole board. And they're asking for some kind of sense of agenda to.
But we have a topic of future discussion, and then we're meeting with all those agencies on the 14th. So respectfully, it's not on the agenda that was published beyond that date, and we have to move on from that.
So who's going to set the agenda?
What are you talking about?
That meeting is on June 14th that we're having with all those people. That
Yes.
will be our next meeting.
Yeah, there
But
will be-
we needed to decide what documents to put on there.
Talk about topics for future discussion, Helen.
But when are we going to discuss it? Are we going to have a special meeting? We have to send an agenda out to all these participants. They
Topics
asked
for
for it.
discussion, Helen. We can talk about what the agenda will be on that. We can't talk about the agenda items at the time or discuss them, but we can talk about what items we want on the agenda. And then we have correspondence and vacancy reports. I already talked to you about this
No,
And
but
correspondence.
Mike, when are we going to decide? Because the next time we're supposed to meet, it's the actual meeting. And
You're hosting the meeting, so I will make the agenda.
well, we need to discuss what's on it together.
We can do that under topics for future discussion, Helen.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, remote discussion of remote participation and resumption of in-person meetings.
Yes.
Is this for our opinion?
The first part was a discussion of it. I thought it would structure the conversation about the actual policy if we had a discussion first. It does. So I provided the current regulations on it, and then basically, you know, it's a question: does the select board want a remote participation policy? What are the requirements of having that? Can the public participate remotely, and what's doable for the town of Wellfleet? And I just wanted people's opinions on that. And so we could have an organized discussion first before getting into the policy.
Okay, I'm gonna call on Janet first.
So personally, I see advantages to both. I think we have to wait until the state makes its announcement. But if we have the select board come in person, I really like the option of allowing department heads and some, audience members too, for the remote, because it saves them. They can be home if they live far away, and it's easier on them. I did talk with another select person from the Upper Cape, and they said that they started doing it, and it is somewhat confusing because the chair has to pay attention to, if we do a hybrid, the chair has to pay attention to the select board being live, but also remote participation, and that we do need more equipment, and we would need, someone really handling the videotape of the selectmen, and then also this. So, but my vote would be, I will go along with whatever the committee wants, the select board wants.
And to answer one of your questions, or kind of one of your comments, under the current state regulations, a quorum of any public body must be physically present. And that's just important to note. So thank you.
Yep. Okay, Justina.
Yeah, I'm picking up on the phrases, we'd need new equipment, and I can see the benefits, but I'm wondering if the resources of Upper Cape are different than ours. I feel like we have to be realistic about the resources that we have. Not that I'm an expert on that, but I think that hybrid, I think we have to balance out the convenience first, the convenience factor for people that want to participate remotely versus the effectiveness of the select board meeting itself. And if we're not really set up for it, it could be very distracting, would be my concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to put in place this policy. It doesn't have to be utilized, right? But if we don't have the policy in place, then we can't utilize it. And, with the select board particularly, we can have sometimes in live meetings where there's something of controversy on the agenda where the actual room that we're in is packed, and I think, given the options of having department heads who don't live in town, sometimes our meetings run long, for them to be able to participate remotely, I think is a benefit. And also to sort of increase our participation, because look at how things go. Most of the time we would have a live, like a in-person meeting, and often there'd be one or two people in the seat for their specific subject. and we'd finish our meetings in an empty room. And I think the goal of having open meetings is that we have in-person participation, but given the constraints of everyday life, people don't want to go sit through a select board meeting in person, but they may participate remotely. We have had, right now there's 27 participants, many of them from the public, and I don't know that they would be at our meeting right now. So I think there's benefits beyond COVID protection to having remote participation. And so I'm in favor of implementing a policy. And so if that's a consensus of the board, I think we should move on from the discussion and onto the policy, which Ryan has submitted.
Yeah, Helen has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with a lot of what you said. This, Ryan, has been discussed in great detail in the past, in the last 6 years. And the issue is exactly what I think Justina said, or forgive me, Janet, or maybe you both said a version of it. And I agree with it, which is, it's a lot more than just us. It's all these different committees that meet. And they definitely do not all have a setup that can accommodate everybody equally, because in what Ryan said, and in also MGL about it, everybody has to be equally intelligible and able to be present if you do a hybrid, just as you do if you do this. And I'm worried also about what I refer to as unevenness of presence. In other words, if some people are remote and some people are actually there, that their input has a kind of, should we say, flavor to it that's differentiated by that. And that could be a negative effect. And the last thing I wanted to say was that I've been paying attention, and we have had way more people at our meetings generally over the last year than we have with live meetings. There has never been a meeting with nobody in the room, or even a handful. Maybe at the very end of certain meetings, maybe the warrant meetings or something. But the thing about staff, I completely agree with. It would make it much easier for staff and more considerate. Thank you.
Just for the sake of moving things forward, can we move on to the next subject, the policy?
I would just like to, one thing before we move on. So I know that Mia's been in contact with some of the surrounding towns as to what they're doing for the setup. So through you to Charlie, Mr. Chair, is if you could, I don't know, find out what other towns are doing and what is actually doable for the town of Wellfleet. So thank you.
Okay, so onto the policy here that Ryan's put together for us. Thank you, Ryan, for taking the time to. And is this the state policy, or have you made amendments to it?
It's part of the state policy and parts of what other towns are doing to adapt it, because the state policy is pretty general, I would say, and you kind of have to be a little bit more specific when it comes to the implementation on a town level.
Okay, can you kind of brief us on any major
differences?
Yeah, substantive changes that you.
So under the state's policy, the public does not necessarily have to be included. It can be limited to just members of the board. But the main amendment I made there was to change it so that the public could participate. And then, yeah, there's a few other things that I'm assuming, if you're using Zoom to record it, to record the meeting. And then basically that yeah, that basically that, and that, you know, the information on how to join would be posted on the town website. And that's, yeah, that's basically the main changes.
Okay,
And I specify the use of Zoom, rather than having a mishmash of different platforms.
So the only thing I'm a little uncomfortable about just singling out Zoom. We don't know if in the future we'll have other more secure applications that are developed for this type of thing. So I'd be more comfortable having that be a little bit more vague, as long as it's.
I mean, my response is that if the town of Wellfleet decides to use a different platform, we can just update the policy.
Yeah, okay, Helen.
Yeah, so Ryan, remember, policies, as you're now aware, are multi-step things and they take time. And I also don't want to get, I'm not sure that the town, what we might be stepping into by promoting one business over another. And I agree with Mike, it should be a more general term. The second thing I wanted to say is, I like this policy, and Ryan, thank you for putting it together. There are two parts of it that need to be changed a little bit on the bottom of the first page. All open session meetings shall accommodate public attendance and participation if so allowed by the chair. Because the way you've written it, it says that everybody gets to participate if they want to, sort of, and that's not true. The chair should be able to close the meeting. And also the second paragraph under that should, you have the input of those participating remotely must be captured in the recording. I prefer intelligible and unedited, because capturing is a very kind of open term. So if we could change that, and also allow me to correct typos. They're not a lot, but since it's a policy and it's going into, you know, an official, you know, body of documents, it would be nice to have it be copy edited, and I can do that. And you've trusted me for years to do it in a minute, so. That's all, but I think it's a good thing, and thank you, Ryan.
Ryan?
Yeah, can I just respond quickly? So the basically open session is basically all public meetings are
Yeah,
open
of course.
session. Yeah, so in all of those, it's up to the chair to recognize or not recognize someone. So we don't have to specify that in the policy, that the chair has the discretion to recognize or not recognize people.
Yes, except that it's belt and suspenders. And the other thing is, frankly, meetings
Helen.
don't allow things, people allow things.
Helen.
I should have been.
Let Ryan finish what he was saying, please.
Yeah, that's basically it. I would have to double check on the, yeah, that's basically it.
Okay,
But the input thing I think is actually important, because yeah, it could be, I don't know. Yeah.
Where is that sentence, Ryan? Is it under public body?
It's minimum requirements for remote participation.
Minimum requirements for remote participation.
It's the last sentence on the page.
Mike, shall I read it?
Yes.
Okay, so it says now, well, I'm going to read my two words that I substituted for captured, which is a more general term. In recognition of the town media policy, all meetings shall be recorded, period. The input of those participating remotely must be intelligible and unedited.
That's fine.
Thank you. And the amendments in the previous sentence are belt and suspenders. In other words, yes, of course, the chair can do that, but.
I think they're unnecessary, so.
Well, I think it's belt and suspenders, and it doesn't hurt anything, and it's just a couple words, Ryan.
Is that, can you, sorry, I'm a little lost. What
So,
what are you adding, Helen?
Shall I
What
read it?
are you asking to add exactly?
Shall I read it again?
Yeah.
Okay. All open session meetings shall accommodate public attendance And all open session meetings shall accommodate public attendance and participation, comma, if so allowed by the chair. So you have to accommodate public attendance.
No, that wording allows the chair to exclude public from attending.
I don't know if it does, Ryan.
No, that's what the comma's for.
I think the shall.
Yeah.
Can you read it again?
All open session meetings shall accommodate public attendance and participation, comma, if so allowed by the chair.
See, if so allowed by the chair. So that allows the chair to invalidate the attendance.
Oh, okay, it says that already. If
No,
so,
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
Yeah, the chair has to be able to not allow public comments on certain things.
Yeah, no, that wording would allow the chair not to allow people in.
Okay, so just put a period after attendance and make another sentence that refers to
Point
that.
of order.
Yes.
Aren't we waiting for the legislature? And we have a very good rough draft of the policy, thanks to Ryan. And I think rather than edit it on a punctuation mark by word basis in real time, perhaps we should thank Ryan and move on. And if we're going to adopt a policy, then we can give it to Helen and Ryan to.
Well, we would give it to the town administrator.
Yeah, but I don't think we need to craft it on the punctuation mark level in real time with 5 people sitting waiting. Perhaps we could move along on the
I
agenda.
think we can move along onto this, because there's a policy on policies. This is the first step. Do we need to take any vote on this now?
Yes.
Okay, what's the vote?
So I'll do it as amended, but I'll leave out the last one of Helen's edits, but keep the other 2. So I move to refer the remote participation policy as amended to the town administrator to refer to department heads, public bodies of the town, and town council for comments and review to be returned to the select board no later than July 27th, 2021.
Helen, second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Christina, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Okay,
Mike, you got to vote.
Michael, aye.
Helen, aye. And Ryan, can you, or I'll get Rebecca to send me a document to change the,
I'll change it.
Yeah.
You stay away from it.
Yeah, well, okay. You didn't catch it. Stay away from it.
All right, let's just move on.
You didn't catch it the
moving
first
on.
time.
Please, let's just move on. Okay, town administrator, Charlie Sumner. Hey, Charlie, you still here?
I'm in West Brewster, but I'm here somewhere.
Okay. So Charlie's going to give us a review of the work plan to address the auditor's management letters and comments. And that'll be first, and then we'll have the auditors on here after. So go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you, everyone. So I am just going to make a few comments about the work, what we're up to, just for the public's information, if I could. So I do want to just let everyone know that we have hired Lisa Sauvé and Mary Markazik to serve as interim town accountants for the town of Wellfleet during this transitionary process. They're both seasoned, professional Massachusetts municipal finance officials that have, I'm not going to tell you how many years of government service they have. But it's impressive and it's varied. It includes accounting, finance directors, treasury, collection, just a vast amount of experience. So I think that, we have a good team in place that can start to work on some of these challenging issues that are facing the town. Now, why do we have 2 people, I guess is a reasonable question by people. And so first, I think I wanted to mention that Lisa Sauvé, she'll be looking forward. One of the problems that we have is the chart of accounts that we using under the VADAR system are really not structured to serve the needs of our department heads. So Lisa Sauvé will be working with the department heads to create a chart of accounts excuse me, beginning July 1st, 2021, relative to both revenues and expenditures, and it'll be structured to meet their informational needs. So we'll tailor it to do exactly what they want to be done. The goal is to give them, relevant financial information on a monthly basis for their respective departments. It's a tool for them to use to manage their departments. Mary McKazek will be working retroactively. So, Lisa's going forward and Mary's going to be going backward to take a look at, financial practices and activities over the last probably 2 years. The town had implemented a new software package, I think on July 1st, 2019. That occurred when there was a lot of transition with staff at the Wellfleet Town Hall. You've had multiple town accountants over a period of time. I think there was an issue with training, continuity, follow-up on certain issues. So that's the beauty of what Mary will be doing. She'll be sort of clawing her way backwards to deal with some of the inaccuracies and errors and omissions that were made. The reality is that Powers and Sullivan audit indicated that there are deficiencies that exist in our internal controls. And, these measures are really important to deal with on a timely basis. So towards that end, what we've done is we've taken the critical tasks that were mentioned in the Powers and Sullivan audit, and we've created a spreadsheet, and we've prioritized those tasks on the spreadsheet. And we've talked about, what the work product would be, who the stakeholders are going to be, what the action plans will be, and then we'll provide an update schedule. So that document is within the package for the public to take a look at. And I will say too, our goal will be, we'll be working on this every day at Town Hall, but we'll update the select board and the finance committee and the public every other week. We'll give a percentage completed in each area. So, let's face it, it's kind of trust but verify. We're confident that we can do these things, but we have an obligation to all of you and the taxpayers to provide an update of what we're doing and how much progress we're making. So also part of this process will be, we'll work with a number of parties to create written policies and procedures. We're going to train and educate employees. We'll establish, deadlines for important milestone issues that we have to accomplish, under the Mass General laws. So that's sort of a quick overview of what we're trying to do. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Ryan?
Yep. So the first question is, will Lisa or Mary sometimes be providing those updates?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really the board can sort of give us a sense of, how you want to handle that. But yeah, definitely. And I think that particularly on some of their work efforts, they're going to be more appropriate to present that information. So yeah, they would gladly do that.
Yeah, I would really like that, and especially so the public can get some feeling as to how confident they are. They're very confident.
Yeah, no, we're really fortunate to have both individuals working for us. Yeah.
And then I don't know. When will we know if we have to allocate additional resources into this project?
Well, some of the, the reality is, I've been here for 3 weeks, I believe, and Lisa's been here for a couple, and Mary's been here for a week. I will tell you that, I'll talk about it later on in my report, but we are really struggling to even get ready for the 2021 annual town meeting. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think that's going to be a priority for Lisa Sauvé and myself over the next 10 days. So I would say that, probably within a month, we'll have a better sense of a timeline and some reasonable milestones. I think that might be reasonable. Right now, we've really got to, we've got a lot of work to do on motions and kind of reevaluating the financial projection, what revenue sources we have, what deficiencies do we have for the current fiscal year. So we need a little bit of time and patience, but we're going to be working pretty rapidly on these issues because time's so critical.
Yep.
Okay. And then if it gets to the point where there might be additional auditing services required, would you be making that recommendation to the board?
Yeah, so thanks. And I should have said too, based upon a question that Ryan asked, is I know that the Department of Revenue has already committed to coming in and evaluating financial operations for the town of Wellfleet. I think their efforts have been, delayed, deferred because of all the transition that's going on. So, that's another step that I should have mentioned in this process. And I did receive an email today from the Department of Revenue sort of asking me, what the time frame for their work might be. But Mary, Lisa and I are meeting tomorrow at, I believe, 1:00. So I wanted to talk to them first before I got back to Department of Revenue. So, but definitely, yes, if I think that this is such an important issue, that I don't want to shortchange the process. It's important that we attack this with some urgency. And if I need additional resources, I'm not going to honestly, cheap out on this. I will come back to the select board and the finance committee and articulate what those needs are. And if there are additional financial resources, I'm not going to be bashful or shy about approaching the select board on those types of issues.
Okay, and that's the DOR is the Division of Local Services.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you. And thank you for, thank your team. I know it's a lot of work and you haven't, running a spread.
I appreciate that, Ryan. And as I say, I think you're going to see some things lag for a while on some of the other things that I'm trying to do as the town administrator, but I really want to focus on town meeting and in this issue. But over time, we'll get to work on a number of the other issues that are important internally to town hall. And I should have, I forget, I apologize. On this very issue, I just want to thank all of the department heads and staff. They've been terribly helpful and encouraging and inviting. And I clearly I do this to make extra money, but I also do it because it's fun. I like meeting and working with new people, and it's been enjoyable. And I appreciate everyone's help so far.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Charlie, so we still have a sense that this is sort of primarily, the accounting issues primarily began in the implementation of the VADAR system in July 2019. That's kind of the sort of.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of my impression really at the moment. I mean, the reality is, department heads have not been receiving monthly financial updates on account balances. And because there weren't initial balances that were established when we, started that new program. So that was that created the initial part of this problem. And then I think with all the transition in accounting staff and not having a chart of accounts that worked for everybody, it really just swelled and very, very quickly. I mean, the reality is, Wellfleet has a really solid bond rating. You have, very reasonable cash reserves. You have a really strong tax base. You have good revenue streams. So you've got a lot going for you. And I think, it just appears to me that things got unraveled at that time. And that's why I think it's important, to establish new systems for July 1st, but also to go backwards and do some analysis in the reverse. So it's going to take time. It really is a huge effort. And I just, if someone says, oh, are you going to have this done in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months? The answer should be no. It's going to take longer than that. And to get it right, that's our goal is to create systems that work for you going forward. When the three of us leave and go back into retirement, we want to have systems and training and staffing in place to handle the needs of your community going forward. That's why we're here. So.
Okay, yeah, and I'd just like to note for the public that Wellfleet actually is in a relatively strong fiscal position and has been able to actually run surplus enough to dedicate revenue to our cash reserves year over year, to the point where last time we had our free cash certified in 2019, had close to 10% of our operating budget in cash reserves, which is the policy goal of the town. I'm really happy to see this workflow chart. I think it identifies the problems and spells out the solutions for these. And I look forward to hearing the reports. It would be refreshing to actually get updated on what's going on in town hall. So I appreciate that. And I think Justina's had her hand up for a while, and Chief Polly also. So Justina, would you like to go first, or?
Yeah, I think I want to pick up on what you're saying. Wellfleet does have a very strong financial position that's separate from some issues in the accounting with our cash reserve, our bond rating, and our strong tax base. And I think when Charlie talks about the team he's brought in, he's modest. The town's lucky to have now an interim town administrator with 30 years of experience. So I think the taxpayer can feel confident that we've got a highly experienced team now handling things, both at the TA level and at the accountant level. So the issues are being dealt with, even as our overall fiscal position is strong. So things look good for the town. And I think, hiccups, organizational hiccups happen. And we had COVID. We had our town administrator leave. We had staff turnover. We had a rough conversion to a computer system, and organizational issues happen, which we have had, but that we've moved aggressively to fix them, and we're on the right track. So to me, as a business person, the positive side of the ledger with the strong tax base and the bond rating are probably really important. And now the problems in accounting are being handled. So this taxpayer, I think, can feel that things are in good hands.
Chief Polly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of points, and I'm just going to reiterate what's already been said here. From my perspective as a department head, Charlie's put together a great group of people to work on this issue, one in the present and going forward, and one looking backwards. And I've had more conversations with these two interim town accountants, if you will, in the last 2 weeks than I've had probably with the previous town accountants in the last year. And those have all been positive and give me reassurances that we're going in the right direction. So, you know, the interim town administrator has made the right moves. The second thing I will say, as a department head of a major department, the VADAR system rollout was an absolute huge disappointment. There was not a lot of buy-in from department heads, and training was not there. And it was a whole new system going through, at that point, two town accountants, and then to a third town accountant, and in the place of also two permanent town administrators. So I don't want to call it the perfect storm, but we experienced the perfect storm. And so I echo a few comments here that we're on the right track. It's going to take probably several months to 6 months, if not more, to just sort this all out. But I'm convinced we're going in the right direction. And once we get the training in place for folks with whatever software system we use, financial software system that we continue with, or maybe transition to, whatever that comes down to, that will be in much better shape in the very, you know, certainly by the fall. That's my sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Janet, do you have anything? Are you ready to move on to the auditor?
No, I'm ready to move on. I think this was great. I'm happy that we have on record some explanation and giving people confidence.
Yep. Okay. Thanks a lot, Charlie. You really put together a good working plan here. Okay. On to our next agenda item, and that is to meet with our auditors, Powers and Sullivan. So I believe they're here on the meeting. And my inclination here is, I know there's been a lot of interest in the public on our audits, and I'd kind of like to open it up for public comment first. I guess I'll introduce our auditors, and then if anyone from the public has any comments or questions, that they get raised now, and then we can go into deliberation with the board and maybe address some of those comments from the public at that time. Do we have our auditor here? I'm not sure who's here from the auditors.
Yes, we do. My name is Michael Nelligan, and I'm a partner with Powers and Sullivan. And my associate with me is Laura Stone. She's an audit supervisor. We both worked diligently on the audit the last couple of years. And we're here to answer any questions that you might have, and to walk through the financials and the management letter if you'd like to. And I'll leave it to you to tell us how you want to run the meeting. I have some prepared comments, but I'll wait to hear how you'd like to proceed with the meeting.
Okay, I'd just like to see if anyone from the audience has any questions or concerns that they'd like to raise before we deliberate with the auditors. And if not, we'll just move into our questions. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Okay, maybe if at the end of this, if we have time, we can come back to participant. Okay, so I guess my question really.
Mr. Chair, can you let him do his statement?
Oh, yes, please. Go. Yes, sorry. Please go ahead and give your opening comments.
Okay, great. Well, it's very nice to meet everybody virtually. And I am extremely apologetic for not being able to make the last meeting. We had our cloud providers network went down at 4 o'clock last 2 weeks ago Tuesday, and it did not come back on until after about 8:30 on that evening. So surprise to me, I was sitting here ready to go, and all of a sudden the screen went blank and I couldn't access the internet. So I really apologize for that. I would like to say that I'd like to thank everybody for the assistance that we did get during the audit of this past year, 2020, and also 19. It's been a very difficult couple of years with the COVID and auditing remotely. although it's become kind of a standard that we've all been using. The AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, came up with a statement saying that if we weren't able to adapt to remote auditing, we would be doing our clients a big disservice. And I think we've accomplished that. We've modified our systems. We've opened up our portals. So we have secure portals where we communicate information back and forth, sensitive information in some cases that doesn't go see anybody's eyes except Laura and mine. We have a portal that's secure to only the people who are working on your audit. And we're confident that all of the information is being kept in secure fashion. We've had a, as you know, difficult time with the audits the last couple of years. I do agree with the comments made by everyone, especially Charlie's, and moving forward, and Mr. Pauly as well, that the rollout of the VADAR system, the new financial reporting system, was the success of that really depends on training and continuity of personnel, and you lost both of those things. The turnover at the town administrator level and the town accountant, I've been on the audit for a couple of years now, and I've dealt with 3 different town accountants and 2 town administrators, and it seems to me that you've just lost a lot of institutional knowledge within your finance department. And that's going to take a little bit of time to get that all back in place again. But I think you're on your way. You do have a very good community. You are AAA rated. You do have good reserves. You do have good revenue sources and so forth, as everybody mentioned. I totally agree with all of that. But the accounting side has fallen down a little bit. And what I'm going to just typically do is go through our process. We normally do the audit in April, and we do a preliminary, some preliminary planning work in April or May at the beginning of those months. And then we've always done the audit the second week of August, and we've always gotten the reports out not too soon after that. The last couple of years, this past year, we just finished 19's audit in April of 2020. We were scheduled to start 2020's audit right after that. I talked to, it was Gene at the time, who was the town accountant, and he indicated that the books were not even close to being closed. And we skipped over that preliminary work that we normally do because there was really nothing to look at that point. He indicated that he needed some help. We put him in touch with some consultants that work with cities and towns, helping them work on bookkeeping things. And that was supposed to have happened by the end of October 2020. And we agreed to keep our schedule open and to just fit the town back in the schedule as soon as those ledgers were closed and available. I never heard back from Gene again after the beginning, about the middle of September. And we were expecting the consultants to come in, work with him throughout the month of October and get ledgers closed by the end of that month. Again, I never heard back from him again. I got a call from Heather in the middle of December, actually late in December, indicating that she was taking over for Gene and that she needed some time to get the books closed for the 2020 audit. So we agreed to start that process on February 8th, 2021. And we also agreed to complete your Schedule A for you. The VADAR files that we got were provided right on that week of February 8th. But the new system came over and it didn't line up at all with the prior year. There were the beginning balances were off. The funds were commingled. Project balances were not maintained. So when you talk about creating a new chart of accounts, those are the kind of things that you're referring to. You need to have a chart of accounts that you can have multiple projects within a fund, but you have to have those funds earmarked to close the projects to each other. And that wasn't happening in the current VADAR system. So that's where a lot of your issues lie. Between the commingle of the funds and the project balances not being there. In addition, the balance we had about 7 funds that were just simply out of balance to the tune of about $53,000 in total. We made some entries and fixed those problems by just creating some liabilities in those accounts to put the unbalanced funds into. And then we spent a couple of weeks working on your trial balances, getting them in line with the prior years, and we were able to finish that within a couple of weeks. We then got all of the support that we needed for the most part from the various departments that handle financial information. We got through and reconciled your cash on the treasurer's side. We got the treasurer's reconciliations, I should say. We didn't do it ourselves. We audited that cash and found that it was in agreement with the treasurer's records within $53,000. However, it didn't agree to the town's general ledger because that reconciliation process hadn't been occurring throughout the year. But anyway, we were able to work through that. We finished the audit. We got the financial statements in good shape, and we wrote a management letter with, I think, 15 comments in it. And we got all those drafts down to the town on March 30th, 21. The current manager in place at the time reviewed those reports, got back to us with any comments. We made a couple of changes, updated a few things, and then we issued final reports dated April 14, 2021. We issued unmodified opinions on the financial statements, so you don't have any qualifications or any issues to deal with on the financial statement side. We did have material weakness on the cash reconciliations and 14 other comments in the management letter. We made a significant number of journal entries to line up the books again back to where they started, and we provided all those entries to management. And I believe that those are going to be your beginning balances going forward. And those are the ones that agree with the audited financial statements. So I strongly encourage you to use those balances or to let us know if you have any changes to them. And those can be taken care of in the next audit. So that's kind of the process of the audit itself. And I'll stop here and take any questions if you want before I get into like the numbers or the management letter itself or however you want to go. But that's kind of how the process worked and how we got to where we are today. And remind everybody that, June 30th is just a couple of weeks away and another audit is going to need to be started. And I think that we've left our schedule. Typically, we would have you scheduled for the second week of August. We did not put you in for that slot. I have you scheduled sometime later in the year. I think it's in the first week of December or so. But again, we will remain flexible and we will respond and get working on your audit when you're ready for the next one. So are there any questions on that part of the audit process?
No,
it's very good.
I do have a couple questions for you. So in 2019, we didn't get a management letter, and that's probably because things were starting to unravel, or what was the status on 2019?
So we finished the
place, and then, yeah, go ahead.
We finished the 19 audit right at the end of April, right at the last minute, pretty much. We issued those financial statements on April 30th, I believe. And that's right when that's the cutoff date for, you can't go out any really longer than that without getting your bond counsel upset at you and things like that. So we got that done. And at that time, there was, the town administrator was just about ready to leave. The new town accountant was on board, but I don't know that he was functioning fully in that capacity. And I just made a decision that I think it's really late in this process to issue a management letter. Why don't we give them another year and let them get the VADAR implementation finished, and we'll see how next year's audit goes. And, I don't like to, for lack of a better word, to beat a dead horse, but that's kind of, it seemed like a sort of a moot point to issue a management letter when I knew the next audit was just starting up again. And many of those issues that we were going to mention hadn't had a chance to be resolved by management or even addressed by management because they were also new.
Right.
So we made a decision not to issue a management letter for the 19 audit.
Okay, and did you do the 2018 audit?
We did.
Okay, because it seems like at that point, the comments from 2017 largely had been addressed and things seem to be progressing as normal.
I believe that the things, we've been auditing the town since 1996, and we've never had any issues to the magnitude that we're dealing with now at all. And all of that started to happen with the, so you combine a turnover in the accounting department with trying to implement a new system, and it's just a recipe for failure. And that's basically what happened. So my feeling was that we wanted to give you another year to see if you could get that resolved before we wrote the management letter.
Okay, so I've read through the previous management letters, and it does seem that largely the town has taken the steps to address the recommendations.
Oh, absolutely.
The auditors year in and year out up until this point. And I just think that's important for the public to understand that this isn't something that's been, that has not been, that issues arriving in the audits have not been addressed by the town, that they have been addressed year in and year out up until we got to 2019, where we didn't have the management letter because the chart of accounts wasn't all set, and now into 2020. So I just think it's important for the public to understand that. And I wanted to hear from the auditors that whether they felt that the town was being responsive to the recommendations previous to this data entry issue.
Absolutely. Our comments in prior year management letters were mainly just operational efficiency type things. You can do this a little better. You can improve your payroll process a little bit. You can tweak a procedure here. Nothing major were in those prior year management letters. And whatever we did put in there, the town certainly addressed them on a timely basis.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you. I think, does anybody else have any questions for the auditor? Ryan?
I do, but I was going to let Mo go first.
I think I'm going to go through the board here before I go to the participants. I think it's important that we.
Okay. So, it is unfortunate that you didn't issue a management letter last year to identify that the implementation was not going well. But I just don't know. I mean, some of these issues that are identified in the management letter are more systemic. Lack of 1099s, using general journal entries as a normal course of action. I mean, why were these, and assuming that that's not new to the VADAR system, that they were pre-existing practices of the accounting department and other departments. And I'm wondering why those issues were not brought forward before.
I don't believe they were issues in the past.
Okay, because
not to my knowledge.
I mean, it went from how many 1099s issued last year, or the year before? It was I forget. I don't have the number in front of me, but it was in
I think you have to understand too that we were working with a new town accountant and a new town administrator at the time who were also experiencing these kind of same issues with dealing with the staff that was there. So it was kind of an effort for us to try and make some recommendations to clean up all those things while we were working on other matters as well.
So the problem with that is that the auditors are hired by the select board. And, the information that you give to town administration does not always get to the select board. And so there was no forewarning that there were issues and that things were not going well until July of last year. And the information we were getting from administration at the time was very scant and generally lacking. But, you know, ultimately the auditor is supposed to act as an agent of the select board. And I think it was remiss not to bring that there were issues with the implementation in the chart of accounts for a year. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know. And then I have questions on specific entries. For instance, the audit adjustment of almost of 765,000. What was that related to?
So that is through the chair, that is a process of elimination. Basically, when we first started the audit, your cash was off close to $5 million compared to compared to the treasurer's balance to the general ledger. We found 2.2 million or so of that was posted to fund balance, where the beginning cash balance did not agree to the ending cash balance from 2019. So that was the first audit adjustment. And then we found that a $2 million wire transfer went out and did not get recorded. So we recorded that entry. And then we were left with about $800,000 difference remaining after that. We identified outstanding checks, $56,000 or so, and that left about $820,000 of unreconciled cash. We got in and started auditing the agency fund, and we found out that the agency fund was upside down to the tune of about $740,000. And what I mean by that is there was debits in fund balance and credits in cash that didn't make any sense at all. So the fund was totally out of balance by about $740,000. And it made sense that that entry for $765,000 to increase the town's cash on the ledger side would go into that agency fund. So although it was written up in the management letter as an unidentified variance, I'm very confident that that's what the problem was. And we were dealing with a situation at the end where the treasurer's cash was in excess of what the general ledger said, yet you had this negative cash balance in your agency fund, and it made perfect sense that that's where the problem, the final problem was. So we made an adjustment to post that $765,000 to the agency fund, brought that back into balance.
Okay, and then the starting balances of the funds in the VADAR system, I'm assuming that you looked at those in the 2019 audit as well, correct? Or last year?
No, VADAR was, first year for VADAR was 2020.
Fiscal year 2020.
Fiscal year 20, yep.
So starting July 2019.
The FY19 audit was done on the old system.
But you were just telling us that you didn't issue a management letter because they were working on the new system for that year.
Yep.
All right, I'll let somebody else,
So just to be clear on that, you finished the audit of 2019, April 2020?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why, and then you began the FY 20 audit in
February 21.
February 21. Okay. And then we
But throughout that whole time, I was probably talking with Gene every couple of weeks up until the point where the communication from him stopped in the middle of September or so.
And so, I mean, typically the town administrator should be reporting to us what's going on in the accounting department. That's not a question for you. It's a general statement. That wasn't happening. So I think April 20, I'm just trying to go back in my mind on dates. Does anyone else on the board like to speak? Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty confident that I know, where we are right now, and hopefully as the work plan goes and Mary McIsaac goes back, that we can have this all sort of confirmed as they fix everything. But Justina?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the town administrator's job to inform the board. There's a clear chain of communication there. And I think the important thing is that the problem's being dealt with rapidly and effectively. It's well resourced currently with highly experienced people, and we have additional resources to bring in if necessary, and it's being dealt with, it's being handled, and we know the outlines of the problem, and the town's fiscal position is strong. So although it's worrisome and unfortunate, the problems that are outlined, and the language was serious and they're being taken seriously, it's in good hands. So I feel confident that it's being dealt with. I was more concerned some months ago. I now feel confident that we put the resources and the personnel to it. And I think that our auditors have done a wonderful job. I appreciate, Mike, that you're here tonight, and I appreciate all that you've done for the town apparently since '96, or your firm. And I think you've been a great partner to the town. And I think everyone's pulling together to handle the situation.
Ryan?
Yeah, so free cash wasn't certified in 2019, correct?
FY 2019.
2019. We're not, I don't know.
2019, they certified free cash from FY 2018. That was the last time free cash was certified, was FY 2018. It was certified in 2019, and there was about a little around $1 million.
Oh, and Michael?
Yep.
Charlie.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I just went on the state portal, the website, and so on looks like June 15th, 2020, the free cash was certified for July 1st, 2019. So. Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, I mean, some of the stuff like the lack of 1099s and W9s is, and that can't just be something that's happens overnight. That's like, I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested to go back and see how many 1099s and W9s were issued in years past, compared to how many are issued for this year, and see and determine if that was a long-standing practice or not. You know, I am concerned that, you know, that the communication was bad, that there's no forewarning of the seriousness of the issues, even though it's pretty obvious that, you know, the auditors knew that there were issues going on in the accounting department, and that they should have issued a management letter. You know, and not doing so was, you know, remiss, and did not serve the town well. And that's all I'll say on that. So thank you.
Do we have anyone? Should we go to the participants? Mo, would you still have a question? I saw your hand up for quite a long time.
Actually, I'm thinking more about how the decision was made to change the software system, the accounting system, and who was in charge of the implementation. Where was the coordination? You know, I understand the issues of poor communication, but how does it get that far? At what point? How was that decision made? Was the board involved in the decision to change software? Any answer on that? Mike, was there a...
That predates my time on the board. I don't, it's generally in town administration function, but I think that there was a grant to the town. I think there was some grant received or something like that. I'm not sure. Change the software, but that predates my time on the board. So
okay, is it customary for the auditors to be involved in the transition? And did the auditors recommend that particular software? I'm just trying to figure out where the chain broke, and it just seems like a very difficult situation that should have been recognized long before it was. And I do understand, and I'm grateful that things are on a better footing, and we seem to be getting past the worst of it. But I would like things in place to prevent it from happening again, to making sure that the communication with the auditing firm, or maybe a different auditing firm, should be in place to never let this happen again. That communication is essential. In a different life, I designed computer systems and led groups that handled the implementation. And this is just the kind of nightmare we did everything we could to avoid. And it saddens me that it went this way. It gratifies me that we've got Charlie Sumner on board, and that we're moving in a better direction. But we need to have some things in place that make sure that communication, and it may next time may not be accounting. You know, it could be road surfaces, whatever you want to bet on. Assume it's going to happen, and have things in place that make sure that the communication is good, that your town administrator, and honestly, I was on the search committee that recommended Dan Hort, to my regret. So you don't always know what you're getting, who you're getting, but it requires involvement by the board and the auditors to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. That was really all I needed to say.
Okay.
I would like an answer on how that decision came about, and maybe Mr. Nelligan can address that.
Mike?
I was not involved in the decision to change the software system at all.
Mike? It's Helen.
Oh, Justina's had her hand, or I don't know.
I can answer the question.
Okay, you were on the board. Yep.
Yeah, I was on the board, and Janet, I think you were on the board too.
Yeah.
It was reported to us by Dan Hort, and because he had been the financial advisor, the head of the financial department in Provincetown, we all put quite a lot of faith in him. And the normal difficulties you'd have with bringing staff onto a new system, right, occurred, perhaps a little more than normal. But at a certain point, it became invisible to us. And I see that Chief Polly also has his hand up, and he would be able to give a report from the inside about that. Thank you. But we were reported to, Mo. In other words, the select board heard about it from Dan Hort. Thank you.
That new software was being implemented.
Well, and that it was Vadar, and a little more about that. Okay, thank you.
Justina?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't just the software, it was the people. And there was a lot of turnover in town hall, and the turnover was in the finance function, which reported to the TA, and there was turnover in the TA function. And the accountant hire was highly problematic. And I spoke to Dan about that hire, and he said, sorry if there's background noise. He said that he felt.
Justina.
Yep.
You have to be careful here because you're talking about the performance of past employee.
Thank you, Ryan. So I'll just say that it was software Mo, and then it was personnel turnover. So the finance function for the town suffered from turnover. And I think we were aware of the turnover on the select board, but we can't go to town hall and supervise people and so forth. So I think it was, I'm reminded of the Mark Twain quote, "How did you go bankrupt?" Very slowly, and then all at once. So I think we had a lot of small problems that then snowballed at the end. So I don't, I think we need a strong TA hire. I think we're gonna straighten things out and then be very deliberate about the TA hire.
Yeah,
going forward.
yeah, and to that point, the select board depends heavily on the town administrator for information. We are the executive branch, set policy, and we can only act on information that we have. So if we're not being informed, and maybe, there should be a mechanism to be sure that, the town administrator, if they're getting a report from a auditor, that we also are getting that report. I mean, but to the crux of the issue, I mean, we do not administrate. We do not do data entry or oversee data entry in the accounting department. That's not our purview, and we can't act on information that we don't have. So we need to make sure that we're getting the information that we need to act and to basically make sure that, administration is functioning in their role. And that's all I have to say on that. Chief Polly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I've said before, I'm not interested in looking backwards, but I can tell you as a department head of one of the largest departments in the town, when the implementation of the Vadar system was basically thrust upon us, all departments, there was no input by the then town administrator. Basically, this is what was going to happen. And I've worked in two other fire departments, two other communities as fire chief for over 22 years now. And I've never seen implementation of a major financial software system that went as poorly as this one did, because the department heads were not given any input into it. I will stand by that. I will say it to the day I retire from the town of Wellfleet. So whatever we do moving forward needs to go better, number one. Number two, with respect to software, financial software systems, or what we stay with or what we may go with down the road, there needs to be total transparency on the part of the town administration and the town accountant's office to make sure that this works for the departments. And we didn't have that with Vadar. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Hey, Ryan.
Michael?
Oh, Charlie, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, there's only a few vendors that are reputable vendors in Massachusetts that provide these platforms for Massachusetts municipalities. It's pretty specialized. It's Massachusetts is different. Munis is, I think, one of the larger ones, of course. But Vadar is a substantial company. I think they have over 80 Massachusetts communities using their general ledger package, accounts payable. I will tell you that Brewster has used Vadar for, I can't remember how long, but a long time. Chatham uses Vadar. So they're both AAA rated communities that have good practices and good service. So I think, I only want to say that I think more of the issues are training and implementation. I know I have talked to Vadar since you hired me. They want to assist, obviously, and they've offered services. So they want to be part of the solution too. Clearly, for the limited time that I'm going to be around, I don't want to have to deal with the transition to another platform. We need to deal with the problems that we have with the systems we have, because they can work. But I do think communication, training, and in involving our department heads in these processes, it shows you how important communications is, right? So, thanks.
Okay, Ryan.
Yeah, so this is towards Mike. So through you to Mike is, I don't know. So yeah, sometimes it seems like people misunderstand what the purpose of the audit is. Can you elaborate as to what the purpose of the annual audit is?
Purpose of the annual audit is for us to give you an opinion on your financial statements. And we assist in that process of putting those financial statements together. We expect the town to take responsibility for them. And we render an independent opinion on those financial statements. That is the purpose of the audit.
Okay, and then how in depth is it?
How in depth is it?
Yep.
It depends on the auditor's judgment, but it's very in depth. We audit virtually every number on those financial statements. We assist in writing and helping you write the footnote disclosures that are required as part of the report. And, I'd say it's very in depth.
Okay, so thank you.
Mike?
Yes, Helen.
Yeah, and through you to the other Mike, isn't there some requirement from the state that we do get audited? Or am I just imagining that?
No, anytime you have debt on your books, you are required to be audited.
Okay, and we always have debt on our books in one way or another, correct?
For the most part, there are some communities that don't have debt, but very few.
Okay, so I just want to comment on when Chief Pauly spoke after me, and thank you, Rich, because that's what I was hoping for when I said, I don't know what was going on exactly with staff, except that I did hear at the time from quite a few staff. And my impression, asking other people in other places about using this new system, was that the system could work, but the way in which you brought it into the town had to be done, it would always be massive if you changed like that. And that did not happen well, as far as I could see, as a more or less outsider. So thank you, Rich, for confirming what I thought I was picking up on.
Okay, we have anything from participants? I'm not seeing anything. Anything else from the board? No? Okay. Well, I guess that wraps up our meeting with our auditors. And any additional questions, I think, could probably be emailed to the board and town administrator, and probably get an answer from the auditor if there's anything particular. And I certainly appreciate you coming before us. I wish it could have been sooner so that the public had a little bit of understanding of exactly what happened, but we certainly went through a rapid transition and changeover in town administration, and getting our acting and then interim town administrator, and then trying to set the budget and the warrant in a very short amount of time. So we appreciate you having the flexibility to come as soon as we could get you here after, or at least try anyways. So thank you.
Thank you. Very welcome.
Nothing else?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll move on. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we have town administrator's report. Charlie?
Oh, thank you. Okay. So I'd like to just go over a few things. I think you all know, I've been meeting with a lot of people, which I do enjoy. And I want to thank our town moderator, Dan Silverman. He's been setting up a series of meetings with appropriate staff to get ready for the upcoming 2021 annual town meeting. That's been going well. I did have an introductory meeting with Fred McGee, the chairman of the Finance Committee, recently, and I will be attending the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow evening, June 9th. And I intend to give them an update on issues in preparation for the 2021 annual town meeting. I'll also give them an update on tonight's meeting and the plan that we're working on to deal with the auditor's management letter. And then we'll talk about, I'm also going to talk to them about some of the future financial management issues that I want to work on through the summer and the early fall of 2021. So it's really an introductory meeting. I have been spending quite a bit of time on the dredging issues with the harbor. It's a huge project. I've met with Joe Aberdale. I've also met, our financial team has met with Will Sullivan, who maybe yesterday, I can't quite remember, who gave us a really nice update on the dredging plan, and we're obviously trying to set up project accounts to deal with that important project. I did speak with Representative Peak and Liz Gantz, Chief of Staff for Senator Deere, Senator Sears' office, to discuss these issues that we've already been talking about relative to Governor Baker lifting the emergency order. So I've been doing that. I finalized the host agreement for Nature's Alternative, and we did get a copy of the facility site plan in their business summary as required by the Selectmen's
Thank you for that.
policy. And I do want to comment, Rebecca Slick, our Assistant Town Administrator, has been working with a number of volunteers and staff, and as of last Friday, submitted a grant application for the 46 unit affordable housing project. That's going to include the wastewater for fire, police, and the elementary school. It was a huge task. I just want to recognize Rebecca, but also all of your volunteers that did a lot of work. And we're optimistic, and time will tell. Relative to the 2021, the current operating budget, Lisa Sauvé is doing a lot of work, taking a look at spending as we estimate through June 30th, 2021. We think there's, frankly, going to be quite a few funding needs to finish out the current fiscal year. We'll handle those within the budgetary transfer article on the annual town meeting warrant. The next step is she'll work with department heads to see if there's some available resources to cover some of those deficiencies. It's a big task. We're doing the best we can. I'll have to report to the select board on your meeting of June 22nd, and you'll have to take some votes on that. So, it's a big effort. We're working on it. And also, we are also evaluating the proposed budgets for FY22. We know there's some deficiencies and issues that we need to deal with. And we'll report on that on June 22nd as well. And probably have to require some amendments on town meeting floor for some of the more substantive issues. And there's other things that frankly, we're just not going to uncover, before town meeting. And that's why I think you've heard me say, I think we're going to need a town meeting in the fall. And there's a number of reasons to probably want to do that anyway. If we can get free cash certified, you do have a huge backlog of capital and equipment needs, and maybe we can try to address some of those at the same time. I did have a meeting with our department heads on June 30th. I gave them an overview along with Lisa Sauvé. We gave them an overview of what we were going to be talking about tonight. The reality is that our department heads and our employees are sort of boots on the ground. They interact with our community at a very high level, and we want to give them as much information about what we're doing, because I think it helps, one, for them to know, and also two, to produce some confidence in the community that we're all working together to deal with some of these issues. So I'll continue to involve department heads to keep them informed of what we're doing and to get advice and input from them. We're only going to succeed if we all work together. And then I did get, we have a meeting on Tuesday, June 10th, to discuss the 2021 Wellfleet Oyster Fest activities. So I'll be reporting back on that. And then we did reach out to the Mass Department of Transportation. They're going to be holding public hearing on June 30th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to review the 25% design plans for the Route 6A Main Street intersection improvement project. I already mentioned that earlier when Ryan had an agenda item that I'm going to be meeting with the Board of Health tomorrow at 5 p.m. to get some advice on, building opening issues and so forth. So I definitely look forward to talking to the Board of Health. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, I did get an email today from our town clerk. And I wanted to let the public know that all vote by mail ballots have been sent out as of last Monday. The official drop box for those is located in the police station. It's inside the main vestibule. It's available 24 hours a day if you want to drop off your ballots. The last day to register to vote for the election is Friday, June 18th, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and also from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. They should call the town clerk to set up an appointment, however. So I think that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, Mike?
Helen, go ahead.
Yeah, so through you to Charlie. Back in the day, in the summer, the Board of Health submitted to the Select Board what was, it was a document that was sort of required in order for us to say town buildings closed, people have to wear masks, a number of COVID-related things. And it was a plan. That may not be the exact title for it, but it was a required thing in order for us to do it. We had to hear from the Board of Health. Do you have any sense of that, us getting another plan from them with adjusted requirements? Because the topic of your meeting sounds like it would be that kind of material. I just don't know. Do you
Yeah, I
know?
believe so. I mean, obviously I don't know your community and your operations, and I'm not a specialist on some of these health issues, so their input's critical. But yeah, I think that was the idea, is that we would have a conversation with those professionals tomorrow. And then I was hoping, frankly, I'd have more time, and then I was going to report back to the select board on June 22nd. So, if there's some urgency relative to some operational issues, I might need a select board meeting before that. But let's see what comes out of tomorrow night. But my plan is to do exactly that.
Hey, Charlie, kind of my understanding that once the emergency order's lifted and everything's lifted, we can still implement some policy procedures as far as public health goes. But I don't know that we'd need the same type of comprehensive plan as we had in the past, where it's sort of up to the town administrator's discretion to consult with the Board of Health on this. And then, I think now that there's not an emergency order, that you would be able to make a determination. I mean, we kind of ratified the Board of Health's regulation or plan, and we made an amendment to it. But now that this is all lifted, it's sort of a different process as far as opening town buildings and what types of precautions or procedures need to get looked at. So I'm not saying don't bring it to us. I guess I'm saying that we don't need to go through the same process as when we had declared an emergency and the state had declared an emergency, and we had to go through the Board of Health to make sure that people were, safe. There is a vaccine now, and pretty much everyone has access to it. So, except, obviously children are still not vaccinated.
Yeah, and I think it's been helpful. The KP Law has provided some good advice as well. And I know that Hillary, our health director, has been reaching out to other communities to get information on what our neighboring towns are doing as well. So she's doing good work in this area. So I think we'll see the fruits of that tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm looking forward to potentially reopening is the library.
Yeah, I will tell you, I received an email today from the library director giving me some information on the library, that they already have a plan in place. I frankly was trying to get ready for tonight's meeting and trying to catch up with motions for annual town meetings so I can meet with the finance people. So I haven't even read it for content yet, but I will do that and I will share that tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I intended to read it, but I was late getting home. I was in trouble. So.
Okay. Well, I think that's it from the board. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Topics for future discussion.
Mike?
Yep.
Where exactly are we doing this possible agenda for this meeting? on
Why
the,
don't you just tell me what agenda items you want on the meeting?
well, I emailed some of you, and that was the time at which I told the people that I had been doing the secretarial work lining up. I told them all communications goes to the town administrator, Rebecca Eldridge, Rebecca Slick, and us. In other words, that it wasn't going just through me, please. And what the guy from the DCR said was, he said, well, how about if we each go around the table quickly and give an update or just make some statements about the project in passing and then proceed to questions and answers and further discussion. But I'd like to have some agreement on the documents, let's say, call it the electronic packet for the meeting, because, you know, Ryan brought this up at another meeting, but also Greg Mischel, or was it the other person, Paul Yannicki from DCR. Greg Mischel is from DOT. Paul Yannicki is from DCR.
It's John.
It's what?
Jonaghy. Paul Jonaghy.
Okay. Okay. I think, yeah, it doesn't matter. And in any case, I know how to spell it, Janet, which is good.
Good one.
Okay, all right, so each.
The point is, wait, there's another, I have to say this other thing. So what's important is what documents we include. And I did a list of them. And I'm wondering if I could run it by you. There is a timeline for the whole series of events, starting with our request, and it would have to be dredged out of the archive, to the DOT to have something done at that intersection, you know, a new option for the traffic light and so on and so forth. This was right after Miles Tibbetts died. So it starts there. And then there were a whole series of meetings and events over many years. And that timeline is very important. Bike and Walkways Committee did something like that.
Helen, before we go any further, are you wanting to, as a topic on this meeting, relitigate everything that's already been done up until this point?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the rest of you feel about that, but if you're asking me, no.
Okay.
But there have to be documents that are provided that give some sense of the history of it.
I guess so, or we can just look at the documents that are current, because that's what we're discussing. We're not going to go relitigate the past. Why are we going to bring in hundreds of pages of or whatever documents of stuff that are no longer relevant or aren't what we're going to be discussing? So I guess I don't understand the logic of going back to when they were talking about putting a roundabout or something like that. But if you want to submit that.
Well, a timeline, Mike, is not a bad thing. And
Okay.
people don't have to refer to it because
If
this
we're talking about packet information, why don't you just submit what you want in there? And, you know, I don't know, we'll go from there.
This is a group decision, but we have to make it now because we're not going to meet again before the 14th. I'd like to hear why is it just me that's got some ideas about this? I'd like to hear about other people's ideas about it, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ryan's got his hand up.
Yep.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So you want to limit it to just what's relevant, otherwise, because you want to just keep it, yeah. But I did talk to the Bike and Walkways Committee. They're trying to get a draft of their report done. They haven't really been included as to when the meeting was set. So they feel like they're really under the gun, and that they might not be fully ready. They're trying to be ready, but it was expressed that they wish that they had been consulted so they could have this report that they've been working on for I don't even know how long it's been now, but they've been working on it, and they want to have something that's suitable to inform as to what the options are for this meeting. So I don't know.
Well, they have to have it by Thursday at the.
Yeah,
latest,
well,
Thursday morning, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
so understood, but this is also a meeting that was supposed to take place months and months ago. So I understand if they want to be at a certain point when we have this meeting, but I mean, I think at a certain point, everyone is sort of presenting where they are in this process. And so if where they are in the process is where they are in the process, then that's what they have to present, or to discuss, So I think this is essentially, we kind of just have to go. So my original agenda idea was meeting with agencies and the select board to discuss issues related to the bike path and the DOT project.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I would go to, if I chair the meeting, go to each agency to present and make a statement. And then, go around the table and try and get a sort of constructive conversation going about, where each agency is in regard to it, and what concerns are maybe raised. So that's kind of how I viewed it, with the relevant plans that are pertinent to discussion right now. Janet?
I just thought it was kind of an update for the Bike and Walkways Committee to talk to the DOT and the DCR to find out what's going on. I mean, I think their major concern is the terminus, and to just kind of talk. I don't.
Yeah.
Update, right? So I think it's fine if we start with the DCR, DOT, or the Bike and Walkways Committee and whatever, and go around and say their concerns or their suggestions.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Mike, I want to address two things. Ryan, first of all, the DCR and the DOT were the first two entities on the list that I contacted, right? And they were the ones that had the most to do with when this might happen. And it was, it was thought to do it before this hearing, which has to happen, the DOT 25% plan submission hearing. And they put it off until the end of June, which was the last possible minute for them. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Mike, I think that's a good agenda item. In other words, that covers everything. And it's also a kind of Q&A time, Janet. You got it right. And there's one thing that I need to mention, which is this is very much about not South Wellfleet.
Right.
And that was made very clear by Paul, however you say his last name. Yeah. So it's very much for us to focus on this. And there's also going to be the National Seashore there and the Cape Cod Commission. And it's going to be a way for us to all be in the same room for the first time and to have any abutters and so forth be able to listen. And then 2 beats later comes the DOT hearing.
And that's the public hearing. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Direct this conversation. Any other topics for future discussion? I think we've got an idea. Helen, why don't you submit to me some content, Ryan, too, for the packet. And I'm gonna sift through it. I don't think we should be putting like tons of timeline information. We need to just keep to what we're discussing.
Present moment.
Yeah. Ryan?
Yeah, so a topic for future agendas, I'm going to bring the town media policy. I'm planning on next meeting. It's already finished or written, so.
Yeah, so I sent Ryan a couple of edits that I had made to that document along, I guess it was pre-pandemic, around March 2020. And then I think he's edited it from there. So I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, but yeah, so I'm all for putting that on our agenda, and the policy on policies now will sort of do its thing on the remote participation. Janet?
Well, I think that since this is, our next meeting is June 22nd, we really need to include any updates to town meeting, you know? And what policy is, like Danny said, that just check in with Danny, of course, Mr. Sumner and Finance Committee to see if there's any, that would take a long time if anybody needs to update what should be said. So that's a meeting in itself.
Okay,
That's
town
an
meeting.
agenda in itself.
Do we have something else that we need to tackle at our next meeting?
Well, our next, who's going to post the June 14th meeting?
Rebecca will post it.
Okay.
It's already on the website. I just need an agenda to put with it.
Okay, we'll go over that. Let's just go over that tomorrow, Rebecca, and we'll just get the agenda posted, and then we'll add the packet stuff later.
So Michael, I have a question. The Chamber of Commerce has said that they don't want to do the July 4th parade and that they'll do it September. A number of people in town have liked that idea, but I think we need to announce it somehow that.
We'll be on our next
We
agenda.
need to discuss it, yeah.
That's on our next agenda, and Lara is going to request the permit for that date on our next agenda, just so it's set for the permission to use a town property for that function.
Okay.
So Lara is going to be on our next meeting from the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll talk about that. And I'd like to talk about potentially having fireworks as well during that time.
Mike?
Helen?
Yeah, we skipped select board reports, and I want to say that the over 2-hour excellent discussion at the Shellfish Advisory Board meeting that included a discussion of whether or not to have a moratorium while the town discussed the use of the newly acquired property and so forth and its impact on the rest of the harbor was absolutely terrific. A lot of different people said a lot of different things. And I hope that the people from the select board who weren't there get a chance to listen to it. The other thing, to go back to topics of future discussion, in other words, future agenda items, is, are we going to have finally the ability to vote on that amended, well amended shellfish regulation about the exception to the domicile requirement at our next meeting, which has shellfish stuff on it. So I'm assuming it's going to happen then on the 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's been listed as a hearing.
Thank you very much.
Yep, those things just go through administration. I don't place or not place those on the agenda. Whenever they come in, they come in. Meaning, if it comes, any public hearing, I always put on the agenda.
Yep.
Okay, so select board reports. Also, I should report that there were 3 of us at that meeting. I don't know if it was posted as a select board meeting. I was there as an individual and stated so, but that doesn't change the fact that we did have a quorum. It was discussed. There was a lot of discussion that went on. I believe that one member didn't give an opinion at all. I gave my opinions as an individual, not as a select board member, and I clearly pointed that out at the meeting, but it's important to bring it up at the select board meeting so that it sort of clears the issue that we were there. That's all. So,
yeah, I have to say, just a heads up, any of us has the right to be at one of those meetings, but everybody on the board should know that I have missed maybe only 5 Shellfish Advisory Board meetings since 2006, June. I go to all of them. If I'm not there, I've missed so few over so many years that you can just count that I go because it's where I learn. So perhaps we should always just be posted, you know, for that meeting, because, you know, other people on the board might, it's our advisory committee, you know? So I'm just putting that out there. You can always count on my being there. That's the point. So after that, it's not up to me.
Yeah, no, it's probably a good idea that they're just posted.
Yeah, and if we don't show up, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other thing is, can we do correspondence?
Yes. Do we have any more select board reports? I didn't mean to skip over that. I just did.
Yeah.
No, not a select board report. This is on correspondence.
Okay, so let's just move to correspondence then.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
It doesn't list the emails we've received for the Board of Selectmen, or for the Select Board.
I can't remember, but I think if it's not listed in here in the packet, if we still receive the correspondence, we can still discuss it. I believe. I don't know though.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be listed in the packet.
I was under the impression that all emails you received as Board of Selectmen doesn't have to be listed. It's only things that come into the office, they get scanned and sent to you. Because you already have it, but I can start putting them in the packet, no problem.
Yeah, Mike?
Helen, yep.
Yeah, it's for all our sakes, okay? Anything that comes in any way, right? Has to be on the correspondence list, which is a pain. And there were 3 letters that were important this time. One was a request for a legal opinion from legal, you know, being able to ask town council questions that were formulated already from the Public Access Committee. And as you know, our policy is the TA can approve that, or a majority of the select board can approve it, but we don't have to vote on it. It's not on an agenda, but the TA, as far as I'm concerned, could go ahead and give them permission, given that they've already formulated questions. That was the first thing. We got a letter from the chair. They did it exactly right, according to policy. The other thing that's of great concern to me is the good letter with a previous letter from the Bike and Walkways Committee about the progress on what's going on in the old Amsler property. And we got something like that back in March and didn't actually act on it. But in any case, I'm highlighting that. And we got that as an email to all of us. And then we got a really interesting letter from Carol Maurer. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. It's M-A-G-U-R.
That's right.
Maurer. Okay. And I responded to it very carefully, saying I was just responding as one person. It was an articulate and useful letter. And I'm just highlighting that and putting it out there as a public record statement that we got this. It was about the water system and use of public water and so on and so forth.
So how did it end a couple months ago when I asked who answers these emails? And didn't we want that whoever answers an email to carbon copy us?
No, that's like deliberation. That's.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Because it is, I mean, I wanted to answer it too. And I thought, well, who else has answered her? And are we giving mixed answers? So that's fine. Okay. All right. What the heck? Yeah.
As long as it's not a matter of fact. If it's
a matter of what?
Fact. Like,
fact. Okay.
You know, this is where you get your beach stickers.
We can write that.
Yeah, all right.
Mike?
Yep.
I think that in the day when letters came in, it would have been a good function for the letters to be listed, but in the day and age of email, we all get it. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
It's for the public.
It's for the public. And the other thing is sometimes,
Okay.
and not that
I
seldom.
was talking.
Oh, sorry.
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 Okay, I understand. That's a good answer. And I'm done.
Yeah, Mike, the other reason is that sometimes, you know, we need to look back, and it happens not that seldom that we need to look back as to when exactly we got that letter. And if there's a list, given that it's all easier to archive it now that it's digital, it's much easier to do. And I've had to do that like a handful of times already this year. So that's useful. Thank you.
Okay. Can we go on to
Minutes?
minutes? Yeah.
I'm getting them all in front of me so I can get all the dates where to put them all. I did have one question, and it's about what I said, but I could have said it. So on the minutes of May 20th, it has me making the motion and seconding the motion. So, but I could have done that. But if that would be a correction on the third page, May 20th. Reinhardt moved, Reinhardt seconded.
Sorry, I can fix that.
I could have been impatient and nobody listened to me, so I
You
could
might have been.
I'm seconding these two, but if people want to change that, but it might be right, so.
No, I remember it got seconded and then somebody else seconded it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so too.
Yeah, that's not how, I don't know who seconded it, but it wasn't Janet.
I don't remember.
And it wasn't something that, it's just placing an article on the warrant, so. All right, would you like me to make a motion to approve all the minutes?
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none. I move to approve the minutes from May 17th, 2021, and the minutes from Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, Thursday, May 20th, 2021, and Tuesday, May 25th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Janet, I.
Ryan,
Justine, I.
Michael, aye.
Ellen abstain. Thank
Okay.
you.
Carries 4-0, one abstention. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Ellen second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Janet, I.
Justine, I.
Ryan,
Michael, aye.
Ellen, I.
Motion carries 5-0.
I love you all. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
all right.
Bye, Charlie.
Bye, Charlie. Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye, Rebecca. Bye, Rebecca Slick.
Yep.
Bye, all you other
That's
people.
where